Another day in the wasteland. Hello, hello, hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening. Well, good is one way to put it. Yes, indeed, indeed, an incorrigible heathen. Look, I'm gonna be real with you guys. A lot of you Americans need to get the fuck out of America, not for your own safety, but for everyone else in the world. It's gotten to the point where, personally, like, not to say that we should stop trying, not even a little bit, but I don't really see a viable path forward to sustainable change, at least for now, until something happens. We're gonna see it get worse and worse and worse. And what I keep thinking about is the fact that part of the reason we won World War II was because of German Jews who escaped Nazi Germany and helped everyone else fight back. And right now, we see Nazism and fascism across the planet, like just growing, festering, getting worse, but almost nobody has the experience of dealing with this in the overt way that we have. Well, I mean, like, there are other countries that have, fascism and Nazism, but more of those countries' population seem to support it, whereas there's plenty of Americans that, well, I don't want to say plenty. There's plenty that are willing to just cope, but there are more willing to fight back, like partisans that are Americans, that we need to export into the rest of the globe. This is actually what the right wing did as well. I mean, going back to like 2008, they were sending agents of the right into countries like the UK, France, Germany, Australia, like all over the place, and setting up conferences. You go and you speak for like an hour or two, you have a meeting with a few people over a few days, and then you go to the next country for the next week. And you create these systems, you create these structures, these groups, these international decentralized insurgencies, which are the only thing that we know for a fact that the fascists are weak against. And of course, I don't mean this like violently. When I say insurgency, I mean like rhetorically, politically. I do have to say that now, clearly. It is just a matter of time before the US erupts into complete mayhem. We're just seeing it happen in real time, of course, but like that mayhem isn't going to end well, is the point that I'm trying to make. There's not anything to be gained from that. I really enjoyed the Discord voice chat stream, aside from the over chatting. It was really fun. I'd love to do something similar again. Well, actually, Comrade Lily, I'm planning to a bit more. Guys, it's time to pivot. I mean, first off, like they're coming after social media. We're gonna have a look at that today. It's becoming increasingly difficult to even just get the message out, even if you're not being censored, because nobody sees it. I've seen examples of left-wing videos being posted that their view count goes up and then it starts to go down. Like, you'll get 100 views, 200 views, 300 views, and then suddenly you're back down to 160, and then 150, and then 140, and it just goes down and down and down and down and down. And it's incredibly clear that there is a effort to censor people. So there's going to need to be some of an effort created to pivot away from a fight that we're not currently able to fight. Like, we're not prepared for it, and we don't have the people for it. So pivoting away from fighting back to containment and raising an army outside of the imperial core so that we can fight back is, I think, looking to be a much more realistic and viable pathway forward. Plus, also, a lot of people are at risk right now. We need to step it up with like locking shit down. You gotta learn cybersecurity. They're doing a lot of bad things, and we'll check in with all of that too. But like, I'm still trying to figure out what the best path forward is, but all I can really see is we need the Americans who are aware of what's happening to leave the country. Hell, like even in Australia, I'm getting a little bit more value given to my words when I say, as a former American, when we're talking about Nazis and fascists, people do understand that, like, it's incredibly overt in America, and in fact, like, even more so than, like, known fascist countries at the moment, the international community, when we're thinking about Nazism, the first thought that comes to mind is not Russia, it's America for most people. And so people do pay attention to that. And that's, like, incredibly a shift. I mean, like, nobody gave a shit what American opinions were all that long ago, and no one still does. But when it's about fascism, and you say, as I used to live in America, I grew up around this, I saw all of this, then people are like, okay, well, what do we do then? Yesterday, definitely a stable, normal day in America. It's already complete mayhem. It's about to get bloody mayhem, and not in the English sense of the word, unfortunately, yeah. The left-wing media dark age of evil shadow ban. I mean, you say shadow ban. We're gonna see more than that. Stephen Colbert, now Jimmy Kimmel, the suppression has begun. You guys know that, like, all of the tech CEOs, I mean, like Discord, Twitch, YouTube, like Snapchat, Meta, like all of these people are going to go to Congress and testify why they allow left-wing extremism to flourish. That's currently a thing that is being put together. So I don't know. Maybe that should say something about it. But I will say, they say it's the left that's violent, but I mean, all over the world, it's pretty fucking clear. Maybe starting your own streaming platform like Nebula would be something to consider. That's incredibly expensive. It's not feasible. To start your own streaming platform, like, you need a lot of money, and it needs to be consistent, and the money is going to need to be greater that you're intaking than outputting, because the number is only going to go up for how much the cost is with the rise in the audience. Today it dawned on me that the First Amendment only applied to congressional law. All other speech protection is court precedent, which means any crazy court could just, well, I mean, they kind of already did. We're going to see that today, too. How did we as a civilization become so corrupted? How did we stray so far from the path that we went from fighting the Nazis to being the Nazis? Well, if it makes you feel any better, the Nazis got their ideas from us. We only started fighting them because they declared war on us. Hell, look at fucking the UK. The UK only Churchill was a Nazi. He only fought the Nazis because they bombed him first. Churchill believed in Aryan supremacy. So, like, it's not all that different, unfortunately. But beyond that, like, social media, capitalism, material conditions, propaganda, and a lack of giving a shit about anybody else. So, But, again, they say that we're violent. They want to blame everything on us. They want to reduce our reach on the internet. And then you look at, like, the right wing. I mean, everywhere, anywhere in the globe. I mean, in America right now, we're seeing suppression in even mainstream news on just, like, news stories like this. But it's obvious. Police arrest man filmed at far-right rally allegedly calling for Keir Starmer to be shot. Here, let's have a listen.
Keir Starmer needs to be assassinated. Yeah, someone needs to shoot. Someone needs to shoot Keir Starmer.
Whoa. That's your average right-winger. The First Amendment was never, and not even dreamed of, as a right for the people. It has nothing to do with us. It only applies to the state. Well, of course, the United States was never built as a place where people can be free. It was built as a place where money can be free, where industry can be free. Literally read it, like the First Amendment isn't for us at all. Yeah, it doesn't exist. I mean, it really doesn't for us at all anymore. It's his First Amendment right to say that? I don't think it is, considering he's British and they don't have the First Amendment. But, I guess they'll change that. Oh, hold on, sorry. 1 second. I think my cat just right on the floor, please. I'm back. Everyone is American. You're not wrong about that. Let's talk about the 51st state for a second, actually, because I mean, they're doing some stuff again. They haven't stopped, but we can finally say it and no one can deny it anymore. Israel is committing a genocide. And we're gonna talk about this because they're legit doing like the final solution right now. So, you know. I fucking wish. But like even if I had like a Visora.gg account, Depraved Ambiance, I would still need to route that through YouTube. Hosting the actual stream costs like, was it like $100 an hour per like 30 viewers or something like that?
5:30 p.m. in Gaza City, moments after a strike near Al-Shifa Hospital. Witnesses say a group of civilians was hit, at least 13 killed, more than 10 injured. Every day the bombing here intensifies, 50 targets struck overnight, the city's internet and phone coverage taken out.
Israel's not denying what they're doing. They're totally
in the place
open
of
about
text
it.
messages, Israel's instructions earlier falling from the sky. The latest leaflet drop reiterating that Gaza City is now a dangerous combat zone. Its residents must leave.
Sure looks like it's filled with danger. All of these children running around. Again, like, how many adults do you see in this shot?
On foot, if necessary.
Displacement is hard. Why don't we want to go? Because displacement is really hard. Death is better.
Until today, everyone trying to leave Gaza City had been funneled onto the coast road. The Israeli military trying to accelerate the emptying of the city. Now the invasion is underway, opening an additional route inland for an initial 48 hours. But aid agencies report little, if any, use of.
Comrade Lily, I know this is not an appropriate time for this, but I hate to tell you that water's not wet. Water makes other things wet. The definition of wet is to be covered in water. Water can't be covered in water because it is water. So therefore, water's not wet. And I will Bunkor. And like, yeah, of course they think these people are existing combatants.
That route out of fear of Israeli forces. Most of the displaced clinging to the coast, paying exorbitant prices for transport and accommodation. Some finding nowhere habitable, simply heading back to Gaza City.
People are not returning to Gaza City because they believe it's safer. They're returning because there is simply no option for them there is no space in the middle area in Deir al-Bala or in Khan Yunis. And also the little space that is available perhaps is simply unaffordable. The cost of a plot of land or an apartment has skyrocketed, and it's simply unaffordable for many.
Apartment? They're bombing every apartment. Water is wet. Water is wet. Come on, can we, like, I would love to argue about water not being wet, and also the fact that, no, a fish in water is wet, and is still wet when it comes out of the water, because the fish is not water, it is coated in water. But can we, like, save it until after the genocide talk? Like, let's at least finish this first. It's, it feels weird, you know, to talk about that while this. But while I have this, let me just confirm for a fact that they're not hiding it. They've confirmed that the casualties are over 200,000 now. Well over, actually. It would probably be about 200,000 a few months ago. I would say closer to 350. Plus also the fact that they are now saying about 400,000 people have left Gaza City in the last week or two. No, don't be sorry. It's fine. We all have to try and cope, and like trying to cope means not think about this, and arguing about whether water is wet is a way of not thinking about the children being murdered every passing second. No, 200K is more like April numbers. Yeah, exactly.
Even then, no guarantee of safety. This was Nuseirat overnight, south of the line Israel has told people to flee to. This block, unlike so many in recent days, was not turned to rubble, but still left uninhabitable.
Oh, so like, you know, even when you go where they say, yeah, you can go there, we won't bomb you there, they'll still bomb you there. Is anyone shocked? Anyone? No, because it's been going on for 2 years now. Well, I mean, more than that, but... Residents
given notice to evacuate ahead of time were back this morning to see what remained, to work out what to do, where to go next.
The apartment is utterly destroyed. We're devastated. Our papers, our IDs, and everything attached to our existence. I can't even prove who I am now. They said half of the area is safe. I do not feel safe. I am living on the street. And how can I say this area is safe? That's never going to happen.
I'm so sick of the constant lying. Like I know it wouldn't make much of a difference to the people in Gaza, but like, holy shit, it would be, for me at least, it would be significantly more difficult to deal with something like this when they're just pretending to not be doing it. I would rather them openly, like, slur me out, call me give me the death threats openly, not bullshit hiding behind, like, oh, you know, we're not gonna kill you there, and we're not starving you. Like, no, I just wish they would say it. I really do. And I could imagine a lot of people, even people in Gaza, would agree. It's not like it makes any difference into how they're acting. It's what they're saying. I mean, I'd rather them not do either of it, but, you know, that's another thing. Keep in mind, chat, 200K is a severe lowball. It's closer to 400,000 to 700,000, because if we were to extrapolate the numbers from that one study, plus, like, the numbers of how many die as they're fleeing, they just said 400,000 people left Gaza City this week. How many of those people died along the way? We just covered on the last stream the fact that there are Israeli snipers that just sit at aid stations and wait for people to show up every day and just kill them when they do. So, you know, I personally believe we're at 7 figures for a few reasons. We're probably close, if not already there, and if we're not already there, we'll get there. I mean, this is, again, they're doing final solution shit right now.
A day after a UN commission report said Israel was committing genocide in Gaza, moves in Brussels to sanction far-right Israeli ministers and end a free trade agreement that applies to about a third of Israel's £5 billion worth of exports to the bloc.
We do have some news on Europe trying to end the trade deal they have with Israel. We'll check in with that as we go. But, I mean, it took the UN this long to say it's a genocide, and I mean, I'm glad they did. Is it going to change much? Not really. Not really. Not until it's over. Because that's the thing, right? Anyone notice how we're only calling it officially genocide now that they're almost done? Well, almost done with Gaza, because, like, they're not done with the West Bank. They're still there. They're doing that. They're bombing Qatar, Syria, Lebanon. I mean, you know.
But that depends on certain member states, Germany above all, shifting their positions.
All member states
Good luck
agree
with
that
that.
the situation in Gaza is untenable. The war needs to end. The suffering must stop, and all hostages must be released. We must use all the tools we have towards this outcome.
That sent stocks down again in Tel Aviv, but Israel's military plans are set. Its prime minister preparing his country for further international isolation.
Yeah, see, no, I don't think this is about isolation next. This is the beginning of another genocide. Like, once they finish this one, they're just gonna move on to a different one. What's up, Let Us Be 3? Hope you're having a nice one. I mean, as it can be, I guess.
On Gaza's northern fringes, a 3rd Army division awaits the order to go in to join the tens of thousands of troops already pressing in on Gaza City.
And again, let me just make clear that this is not just Gaza City. Here's the West Bank, just this week, with masked shooters just walking around, firing into houses, windows, shops, cars.
Sure.
By the way, this is like 1-to-1 Nazi shit. Ironically, it's also what's Trump's favorite gang? Tren de Agua. It's also that kind of shit. It's literally gang violence, mobster, like evil Nazis all put together. And to be clear, like the Nazis were also that anyway. But no, this is done for a reason. They don't care if they kill somebody or not. I mean, they'd prefer to, but the idea is to scare people into leaving. This is part of Israel's plan for Lebensraum, in their own words. That is an Israeli, right? I mean, who else would be walking around the West Bank shooting into people's houses? I can't imagine it would be anyone other than an Israeli or an American. We do have American Wagner in the area, so this is straight terrorism? Yeah, like it is actually just terrorism. Then again, everything Israel does is terrorism. Here's also the West Bank. Also, literally today, actually. That is the West Bank today. Not Gaza. Not Lebanon, not Syria. The West Bank. I mean, to be fair, this is the West Bank like every day these days, but you know. So, can't really, deny that. But let's listen to what some Israelis think about it, you know? This is a long video, so we're just going to jump to a section which is titled something that I think might actually be interesting. Now, obviously, not everyone in Israel is pro-genocide. A lot of them are, but not everybody. But, let's listen to Gaza would, and, quote, no innocents. What do everyday Israelis think about Gaza? Sorry, I know, it's not fun, but we do have to hear it, and again, like, it's the final solution happening right now. If you're not going to listen to it now, you might as well just, you know, start hiling or something. I heard, Living Space, we watching old World War II docs. Oh, it's in 4K? Fucking Nazi. Guardian. Genocide. You published this 2 days ago. That was the day that the UN declared it as genocide, and you should have known better to begin with. Gaza, they'll do stuff in the West Bank, Lebanon, and then maybe Jordan. I mean, they're currently doing stuff in the West Bank, and in Lebanon, and in Syria, and in Qatar. So, yeah, no, they definitely will. Netanyahu has said that he feels a spiritual mission of Greater Israel, and, I mean, like, it's a death cult. We're part of the death cult. Israel's the 51st state. It's the same country. We are Israel, and Israel's America. The Mossad is the CIA. The CIA is Mossad. International journalistic malpractice is just like a normal everyday thing. Only when it comes to Israel, though. Because these people wouldn't say this kind of stuff when it came to Ukraine. Just saying that there is no way the right didn't know the whole time, the history perverts and the homosexuals. No, they just don't let them kid. They were Nazis from the jump, just an aside. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, like, it's not like they tried to hide it much. Maybe, like, the first week. So, not, you know, the children being slaughtered. No, it's the hostages that they themselves killed, like, 6 months ago. I mean, it's particularly bad on Israel, but, man, the shit with Trump's health washing is insane. Well, also, like, again, that's part of it as well. We're the same country, after all. And remember that, like, everything that comes after the extermination is on us, right? You know, we get Gaza for 10 years. That's the deal. Once Israel's done exterminating the Palestinians, America gets Gaza for 10 years to do construction projects on. To turn it into, the Middle Eastern Night City. Israel's just a rogue, like, country occupied... Well, it's a rogue occupied U.S. territory. Yeah, basically. Honestly, I feel like it's more of a state than some U.S. Everywhere else, they've been doing the same stuff in several countries. Again, like, just like, you know, in the past, like, month, Israel has bombed, like, 4 countries. 4 of them. They're currently threatening, like, the UK. They're threatening Turkey. Like, God, I wish they would attack Turkey. That would not end well for them.
I care about the people. I care about children all over.
Yeah, they have healthcare that we pay for
the world. But first of all, we want the hostages back.
Then maybe you should not have killed them, lady. You know, generally, hostages are human. And humans need air, water, food, healthcare to survive, and also generally not getting hit by bombs. That tends to help too. Ah, yes, they're AI and fake. Of course. Wait, are there any hostages still? Not like there's corpse hostages. There's literally like they have bodies of dead hostages. They've offered to exchange them. Mind you, like, let me make this clear. Hamas has offered to give up all of the hostages since October 8th. October 8th, Hamas was like, hey, we'll give you all the hostages, just don't invade Gaza. Israel said no. And then every single negotiation after, Hamas has said, we'll give you the hostages, just stop. And nope. They stopped offering all of them because Israel stopped, like, Israel wasn't saying yes. Hell, they had more of a chance of getting Israel to agree when they started trying to keep some of the hostages rather than giving them all back. It's insane.
Because a lot of
That's literally how we got a ceasefire. Do you think she actually believes that, like, deep down? Who knows, Ethan? Because people are brainwashed everywhere in the world, like, especially in Israel. I mean, like, the brainwashing is mandatory. You all have to join the IDF there, women included. But also, who the fuck knows? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be. We have lots of people in Israel who just overtly say, like, let's kill them. Let's, like, they're just evil in what they say, and people then listen to that, and then they become more and more and more okay with that. That's how you normalize violence on a mass scale. Feels bad, man. Yeah, it really does. At this point, though, it doesn't functionally matter whether they believe it or not. They support it. It's kind of like, do you believe in Nazism? No? Will you still vote MAGA and still support MAGA? Well, then you're a Nazi. It's the same thing. Remember that these are also people who say that there are that there are fat Palestinians, and that's how you know that nobody's starving. These are the people that say this. And again, like, the stuff that they say in English is meant for you. The stuff that they say in Hebrew is meant for them. Go look at what they say in Hebrew. Go on fucking Israeli Twitter and just click the translate button on half of their shit. It is horrifying. Go and, like, just find an Israeli television channel on YouTube and then watch it with some subtitles for maybe 10 minutes. Yeah. It's worse than collaborators. They're part of it. They're combatants. I mean, to be fair, when we're talking about Israel, if you've joined the IDF, which you legally have to, otherwise you go to jail, then you are a combatant. And by the way, plenty of Israelis do go to jail instead of doing that. Like, not enough, but more than I would expect in this day and age. Probably more than the amount of Americans that are willing to go to jail to, I don't know, stand up for what they believe in. We need Israel so Jews have a place to be safe. Oh yeah, speaking of, you know, the Jews have a place to be safe thing. You want to hear some unhinged GTA 5 radio that is currently in America? Here we go.
Seeing the rise of anti-Semitism around the world like never before. For many poor elderly Jews, their dream of making Aliyah one day and coming home to Israel is extremely difficult, if not impossible. But you can change all of that today for one precious Jew. Even in a time of war,
it really does sound silly. I mean, like, again, there's a reason I called this GTA radio. It is almost satirical. They're running this ad like it's like, your money can help feed a starving child in Africa. Like, come on.
Safety and shalom of moving to Israel under God's protection and his covenant promise to bring his chosen people home is why we're asking you today to partner with us. The cost to rescue one Jew and purchase a seat on an upcoming Fellowship Aliyah Freedom Flight is $710. With a donation to the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews of $35, you'll help one poor elderly Jew out of a life of hopelessness and anti-Semitism.
It is actually fucking insane that this is airing on American radio channels right now. I would love to know what the fuck else is going on in American radio. This is Weasel News shit. Not very safe even considering October 7th or the multiple times Israel almost went to World War III with Iran. Well, I mean, to be fair, they keep doing all of that. I mean, again, October 7th happened because Israel let it happen. They got warned of it 3 days beforehand. your money. Well, of course, your tax money is not enough for the state. Now you have to like donate. Hell, I mean, it's not just Israel. We did that too. Didn't the IRS ask people to PayPal the money recently? Not PayPal, or like Cash App the money or some shit?
To start a brand new life in Israel. Here's how you can reach 800-342-0044.
Nope, it's not satire. This is real.
800-342-0044.
Call that phone number. Find out.
800-344. 800-342-0044. 800-342-0044.
So, like, you know, that's where we're at. I can call him a combatant. Like, you might not be able to say that in a court of law in America, but, no, if you are joining the military to go fight, you are a combatant, definitionally. Your money can go help a rich, blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girl from LA, well, also New York, Brooklyn, the UK, Australia. Although Australia at least has at least put its foot down, saying, hey, we're gonna arrest you if you go do war crimes in Gaza. Now, I'm not sure whether they will or not, but, you know, he's a part of Israeli ISIS. I mean, it's just ISIS, Comrade Lily. Like, Israel has been funding ISIS for years. Granted, like, so is America, so is Turkey, and so is Russia in the past. ISIS is literally just, like, everyone go to, it's the, rent-a-merc service, basically, these days. What do I say about that? What do I say about that? The thing is, right, they've never not been saying that. They've been saying that. They've not been hiding it in any way, shape, or form. I mean, remember, like, the guy who's like, oh yeah, every child in Gaza needs to be killed. What was his name? Like, Smotrich or whatever? I mean, look at what every Australian, not Australian, I mean, also some, but what every Israeli politician has been saying. Look at Ben-Gvir. Look at, Yoav Gallant. Look at their fucking Knesset. Remember that video of the guy who was shouting about how it is perfectly legally rational and morally correct to rape Palestinian prisoners in their rectum with a baton, or even something worse than that, while they're keeping them in Sidit Iman? Remember that Israeli podcaster who talked about how he likes to look at videos of children dying in Gaza because it makes his day better? Or the one who said that he would press a button if it killed every living thing in Gaza and the West Bank, including possibly his own wife, who's in the IDF, and that he would do it in a second without thinking. I've shown all of these throughout this genocide, and that's not even 1% of it. It's a tiny, fractional, minuscule shred of what they actually show, what they say themselves, what they do. Here is, for example, them blowing up a school. Now, tell you something about this video. That school being blown up was not hit by a missile. That school was blown up from the inside. Someone went into that school and placed explosive charges at key areas of the building, and they detonated them. This is a demolition. Now, I'll tell you one thing. You don't do that when there are active combatants in that building. The fact that they went and planted demolition charges around this school means that there was no Hamas fighters in that school. That was for fun. And, I mean, I say fun because they say fun. They've posted videos about that. That's half the reason that, it's so crystal clear that this is genocide. Here's another example. In the year 1980, there were only fewer than 100 mosques in Europe. As for today, there are more than 20,000 mosques. This is the true face of colonization. This is what's happening while Europe is oblivious and do not care about the danger. This is literally Nazi rhetoric. This is how the Nazis spoke about the Jews. Mind you, Israel Arabic. And this is happening while Europe is oblivious and does not care about the danger. The danger does not lie in the existence of mosques in and of themselves, for freedom of worship is one of the most basic human rights, and every person has the right to believe and worship his Lord. The problem lies in the contents that are taught in some of these mosques, and that they are not limited to piety and good deeds, but rather focused on encouraging, escalating violence in the streets of Europe. This is literally what the Nazis said about Jews. So, you know. And then, it's not like they also don't admit what they're doing. Haaretz, Israel defense chiefs unanimously tell Netanyahu Gaza City takeover won't defeat Hamas. Push for limited deal. Here is the fucking... Like, this is... I'm not even sure that this is relatively recent. Like, this could have been over a year or two ago, but I mean, this just goes to show the amount of gaslighting that these people are willing to do. Here is an Israeli in the United Nations shredding the United Nations Charter while telling people watching that they're the ones shredding the United Nations Charter with their own hands.
This is... You are shredding the UN Charter with your own hands. Yes, that's what you're doing. Shredding the UN Charter. Shame on you.
Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss, I guess? What the, like this, the fact that this isn't satire is what breaks me.
Yes, that's what you're doing. Shredding the UN Charter. Shame on you. Thank you, Mr. President.
It's not just being a drama queen. Fascists have to be the eternal victim, of course. They need to be constantly portraying themselves as the victim, as the one suffering injustice. And, I mean, like, clearly only one side here is suffering injustice right now. Is this the GTA 6 cutscene? It might as well be. And again, just... I hate showing this photo because I hate looking at this photo, but I mean, it's indistinguishable from not. Indistinguishable. Now, this guy's correct.
America is Israel, and Israel is America. Israel is the 51st state of America. The Mossad is the CIA. The CIA is the Mossad.
Been saying this for like years now, mind you.
If you don't believe the extent to which these two countries have merged, then take a look at that Wailing Wall picture from this afternoon, where Marco Rubio, supposedly in Israel to read the Riot Act.
Yeah, Marco Rubio went to Israel to tell them off for bombing Qatar. And did that instead. Yeah, it's the Holocaust. This was why they have been trying to do this since, like what they've been trying to do since. I mean, like literally, Einstein wrote about how very, very, very Nazi-esque they were, even in 1948. And again, like we've discussed this at length. I don't think I need to explain to you guys how Israel is built on Nazi ideology, and the idea that Zionism is somehow the same as Judaism is laughable, because to be a Zionist, you definitionally have to be anti-Semitic. You definitionally have to agree that Hitler was correct to be a Zionist. Like, it is objectively anti-Semitic, which is also a thing a lot of Jews say, too.
About the attack on Qatar, about which more in a minute. Huckabee, Rubio, and Netanyahu, all of them kippered up, kissing that wall again. The abasement of the United States political class to the iconography of Israel, the never-ending subvention of money and material between the United States and Israel has effectively erased any difference that there is in these two states.
Facts. Like, genuinely, just that is factual information. And mind you, it's not just the United States. There are countries in Europe currently trying to shift away from this, but Germany not being one of them. For example, here is how German cops treat pro-Palestine protesters. This one's from August. Here's another. Someone got trained in Tel Aviv. A cab indeed. Here's another example, this being from 2 weeks ago. Ironically, I think the Nazis care more about Palestinians right now, or at least pretend to, than just like the liberals in Germany do, because the Nazis in Germany do like to lean into their history, and so they want to, like, they don't like Palestinians by any means, but they do like the fact that there is international support for them that can shield them from criticism a little bit. And also, like, they still hate the Jews, so... And mind you, again, Zionists aren't Jewish, but they say they are. Which is also part of the plan, because they like Nazism over there. Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Tucker Carlson in the US, Buncor. Take a look at this guy right here. This is the stuff that actually makes it to Forbes, mind you. Not the stuff that actually, they don't want to show. Yeah, it's the Nazis doing it up. Literally, yeah, actually. Now, mind you, again, there are plenty of fascists that are going to pretend to give a shit about Palestine, and also use it as an op. For example, Maloney. Now, I'm not sure she's an actual Nazi. She's a fascist. She's literally in Mussolini's party, but called for Israel to be removed from the UN. Now, she's correct on this. Israel should be removed from the UN. Pakistan also called for Israel to be removed from the UN today. But, you know, it's Maloney. So, like, not exactly good faith. Isn't the AFD gaining traction in local German elections? Indeed they are. They actually won quite a big local electoral victory recently. My favorite example is how they don't care if you're Jewish, just Zionist, is Adam Friedland and Richie Torres' conversation. Well, like, of course, but Richie Torres, like, won't ever say anything. Not to say, like, he was getting offended because he was getting attacked. If that was a private conversation that wasn't recorded, he might have even, like, agreed with Adam, just not done anything about it. Like, it doesn't matter to them. All they care about is the money. Like, they'll happily admit that it's bad, as long as, they still keep getting money. People like Richie Torres. Like, the fascism for them is the only point. It is a way to siphon wealth, yeah. Here is the UN building in Rome. Clearly, there is a lot of international support for Palestine. And I support this, you know? Would you want a swastika hanging on the United Nations building? No, I wouldn't. Might as well be the same thing. I may or may not have posted that guy's address recently. Torres can get bent, no comment though. Hey, he's an elected official. You're allowed to know that stuff. Like, that's just kind of how it works. What's up, Jason Shuv? The Irish as well. Mind you, there was an attempt of genocide on the Irish as well. We call that a famine now. That's the British doing, and they're well aware. They called it a famine in Ireland too. You know, the famine in Gaza, it's not a famine, it's forced starvation. There was no potato famine in Ireland. The Irish potato famine is literally just the British stole all of the food and didn't allow the Irish to have anything other than the potatoes that they could manage to grow, which like led to a forced famine. It wasn't natural famine. It was the British's doing. And it's the same playbook on every scale. We're just repeating history again because people stopped caring enough to learn about it. Now, Turkey's in an interesting position. Turkey has said some things, and they've done some other things. Turkey has said, for example, that they will no longer allow Israeli ships into Turkish harbors, Israeli flights into Turkish airspace, and that Turkey will be doing more peacekeeping around, after Qatar, around Gaza. They have had Erdogan go up and say that Israel is acting in blind rage. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has condemned Israel's attacks on Qatar, saying that Turkey will take a determined stance against Israel's banditry. Cool, great, love that. Now, is he going to do much? Well, we'll see. Now, there is news coming out that Turkey is concerned of Israel striking them. Israel's not going to strike Turkey. That would be the last mistake they ever made. But in relation to this, and also tying into some other things, really, here is the opposition leader in Turkey, the leader of the CHP party, Özgür Özel, speaking today about how Donald Trump's son, Trump Jr., was in Istanbul for a secret meeting with President Erdogan. In fact, they didn't list his name, they just listed him as an unknown businessman. And these dealings were in relation to Palestine. Now, Trump Gaza, we know, is a thing. We know that they want to build a Trump Tower down there as well. Now, Turkey is the current strongest, Western country that is as outspoken against Israel right now. Out of all of the Western countries, they are the most outspoken with the most power and capability of doing something about it. I don't believe they will, mind you. I'm just stating, the arbitrary facts as they are. I would imagine that the United States would want to get them on their side, and President Erdogan is notably the type of person who is very easy to bribe.
Trump'a bir kelime söylemediği gibi, bakın buradan açıklıyorum. Daha geçen hafta cumartesi günü İstanbul'da Dolmabahçe'deki çalışma ofisinde.
He's saying last week on Saturday in Istanbul there was a meeting. And he's saying this in relation to how he knows that President Erdogan will not say no to Trump.
İsmini gizleyerek Trump'ın oğlu Junior Trump'ı ağırlıyor, onunla pazarlığa tutuşuyor.
A secret meeting where they hid the name of Donald Trump Jr., they called him a businessman, and they're having negotiations secretly. Mind you, Turkey's still on the streets because they are still protesting. Erdogan is trying to kill any idea of an election.
İsmini yazmıyorlar ziyarete, iş adamı yazmışlar. Filistin kan ağlarken Trump'ın oğluyla lobi şirketleri üzerinden.
Sorry, it was Trump Jr. and international lobbying groups that were having a secret meeting about Palestine in Istanbul on Saturday last week, where nobody who was in attendance was named.
İş tutuyorlar, Filistin'deki kardeşlerimizi yalnız bırakıp Filistin'i Trump'a terk ediyorlar.
They are making a deal for us to abandon our Palestinian brothers and sisters, leave them alone, and sell them out to Donald Trump, is what he said. Which, fantastic rhetoric from Özgür Özel. I do very much love that guy. They are going to kill him. But aside from that, there is some pushback from the rest of the world. The EU proposes curbing Israel trade ties, sanctioning ministers over Gaza. Now, this is not nearly enough. Again, like, we've had French elected officials arrested and imprisoned and tortured by Israel who kidnapped them from international waters. Literal piracy. And not the based kind. Not the Straw Hat Jolly Roger kind.
Well, parts of the international community is trying to up the pressure on Gaza over its war on Israel, over its war in Gaza. The European Commission is threatening to suspend free trade arrangements with Israel. The bloc is Israel's biggest trading partner, and last year it accounted for over 28% of Israel's exports and nearly 34% of the country's imports. Well, let's bring in Dave Keating, France 24's Brussels correspondent. Dave, thanks so much for joining us. Just bring us up to speed with what the European Commission is proposing exactly.
Yeah, this would be a downgrading of the EU's trade relations with Israel. It would basically take those relations from privileged down to normal. It's partially targeting the...
Really? Privileged down to normal? Not like, exiled? Not like Russian-level sanctions? Obviously. Obviously. Yeah, they're not like those cool Somali pirates. Well, the Somali pirates were less cool. I was thinking more like old-school pirates. Modern-day pirates kind of suck.
The huge amount of trade that the EU and Israel do with each other specifically would target 30...
Specifically when it comes to the defense industry. Technology, AI, robotics, weapons, missiles, stuff like that. That's one of the reasons, in fact, probably the largest reason, why there is such hesitation by Europe to back away from Israel. Because Israel is just like where all of the American defense contractors live.
7% of the total amount of trade, that's equal to 5.8 billion euros. Now, this would involve costs if essentially they're tariffs that would be on these Israeli imports, and it would involve 220 million.
Well, an incorrigible heathen, this is all coming along with the fact that they're meant to have, like, the UK, Australia, and France, as well as, like, a couple other countries declare that they, acknowledge Palestine as a state soon, and so all of this is coming along with that. They are likely going to do this, but, again, like, it's all for show. It's blowing smoke up their ass, but it's not just that. It's actually playing cover for themselves and for Israel. They're entirely uninterested in stopping the genocide. We're only doing this at the end of that genocide before they start another one. And likely they'll be like, oh, well, we dealt with it already. We already sanctioned them. There's not another genocide. They're not doing that. I'm not calling Somali pirates cool. Just they are so bad Somali pirates are cool in comparison. Oh, yeah, that's factual. Kind of hard to not be at this point.
Euros in costs. Of course, as we know with tariffs, those costs would partially be borne out by consumers. Now, also the Commission is proposing to sanction 2 far-right members of Israeli Prime Minister...
2. That's it. 2?
Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet. That is the National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, and the Finance Minister, Bezalel Smotrich.
So the death cultist and the one who said you should kill children, not, the death cultist and the one who said you should kill children publicly in a viral video. Because, not like all of the rest of them have also said exactly the same things publicly, but,
while also adding more members of Hamas to the sanctions list. The thing is, though...
I'm so sick of this both sides shit. Literally, like... Oopsie, wrong video. Mind you, like, even if there are still Hamas fighters left, they're not the bad guys. They're objectively not. They, like, I'm not even gonna make that argument. Literally, it's this, but, Hamas isn't far left.
have what they need. I'm literally a fucking Nazi. Wow, there's some pretty extreme rhetoric on both sides.
I don't want to get killed or have other children in my community being killed by the people who are, enslaving us. Oh, sorry, that sounds like an extremist to me. But of course it doesn't matter because all of this is bullshit. It's all games to be played with us. It's not about them. Like, they don't care. Like, none of the people in Gaza are being convinced by really even seeing and engaging with, like, the fucking Israeli propaganda that's directed at the West. None of that shit even matters to them. Because it's not about that. It's about us. All of that, like, messaging exists for us. Did you see the 1 person versus 20 murderers video? It's man carries things, I think. No, I have not. I have not. Let's touch on, Europe a little bit before we jump over to the United States. Again, right-wingers are violent across the world. This is, like, definitionally part of being a right-winger. But funny as well. The British are very funny. Trump is in the UK today, and this was the greeting that he was given. I gotta say, we gotta bring this shit home. I told you before, like, the footy chants would drive these people fucking mad. Donald Trump, why are you such a cunt? Fantastic. 10 out of 10, actually. Also, 4 people got arrested for projecting this onto Windsor Castle. Yep. A public stunt earlier today in which a picture of U.S. President Donald Trump alongside sex trafficker and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein was projected onto the side of Windsor Castle. The stunt was carried out ahead of a state visit to Britain this week by President Trump, who is expected to meet King Charles on Wednesday, which is today. If only it wasn't the British. I mean, like, I'd rather they be doing this than a lot of the other stuff that they're doing. The fact that 4 people got arrested for that is insane. But, of course, Charles had to reward Trump for keeping the other royal family members out of the public eye when it comes to the Epstein stuff. But on the subject of, like, the British, I mean, like, there are some cool British. I showed you some white British Muslims the other day. That's pissing the right off as well. But this guy is, kind of, like, I have no notes. None. Zero.
A problem in the UK?
No.
Why'd you say no?
Because it's fundamental to our existence.
Oh, why'd you say that?
Because we need...
Is immigration a problem in the UK?
No.
Why'd you say no?
Because it's fundamental to our existence.
Oh, why'd you say that?
Because we need it. We don't have enough people being born in this country, we need immigrants. It's simple.
Why does the UK fear immigration?
We're told to.
By who?
The elites that own us. So the capitalists and the billionaires that are in charge that really own us and own our parties, mostly the Tories, but now Labour as well, they tell us to fear it because they need someone to blame for our problems when really they're the ones causing our problems.
Do you think we have overpopulations in major cities?
No, not at all. We've got loads of room.
You think so, really? Because everyone says that the UK is such a small thing, the country is individual small islands. Bringing more people here, we don't have the space for it. Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that's a lie. We have the Greenbelt. The Greenbelt is mostly empty space, and we've killed all the animals in it. We might as well build on it. We need houses. It's the fundamental thing that kills our country and kills our young people. We need to build houses. We need to make them so that people can buy them and own them and stop them being owned by landlords.
True.
So I saw another stat on ITV that in the last 10 years, there's 6.2 million people on the waiting list for NHS and 2 million children in poverty in the UK. That allegedly, that is due to immigration. Well, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's not due to immigration. Immigration is the reason our NHS works. The thing that causes that is governments deliberately underfunding and sort of underutilising the NHS for what it could really be. It's nothing to do with immigrants coming in.
It's also the existence of private healthcare.
And badly funded.
Was Brexit a good or bad idea?
Terrible idea.
Why?
fundamentally ruined every aspect of our country, and by every measurable factor, it's weakened us. We can't. The problem is as well with immigrants, the people that don't like immigrants, that want to get rid of immigrants, that would even be easier if we were in the EU. It's weakened everything. We can't do anything because we're not in the EU. We're not the big, powerful Britannia that we once used to be.
I love that framing. Like, the problem, like, even with the people who hate immigrants, is even that would be easier if we were still in the EU.
When we were going around the world and slaughtering people, we're a little island that's off the coast of the Atlantic. We need to be in the EU to have any kind of power or any kind of say-so. We need to have fair and legal routes for people to be able to access this country, and if you want to stop the small boats, that's how you start doing it, and eventually by becoming a member of the EU, that would help us do that as well.
And I'll ask you more questions, just for fun. Would you vote reformed?
I'm not mental or racist, so no.
You're gonna get me killed, mate. You're gonna get me killed.
That's so telling. You know, the guy who asked the questions, like, you're gonna get me killed because someone said I'm not mental or racist about the right wing? It's almost like the right wing is a violent group of extremists and stochastic terrorists. Who could have possibly guessed?
It's true. People don't like it, but it's true.
Yeah. The liberal networks firing their host for saying nothing wild at all is cementing in my mind that the capitalist execs have been waiting for this moment all along. They have been. They literally have been. They've tried to do this, like, going back to the 30s in America. Again, like, like Nazism and fascism in America is just the shield that the capitalists use to hide behind. Well, it's the shield and the sword, really. Well, speaking of, let's talk about America, eh? No, right? We would never advocate for violence, right, guys? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Never. I've never seen that happen in my whole life. Well, actually, before we jump right into the right wing, I gotta whinge about liberals for a minute. Because, fuck, guys. Like, come on. Okay, let's start with this. I'm sure you all know who Dean Withers is, right? When I told you just last stream about the fact of liberal nationalism being consistently the thing that stops the left from achieving any kind of change in the United States, this is what I meant by that.
Don't make that line be one between the left and right. Because if you do make that line fall between the left and right, I will side with the right. This is not about party lines. Don't make that line be one between the left and right. Because if you do make that line fall between the left and right, I will side with the right. This is not about party lines.
No, it's about the fact that liberals still believe in the same project. They believe in American exceptionalism. They believe in American chauvinism. They will pick the side of the right because they are closer in ideology to the right than they are to the left. And this is across the board. It's not every liberal, of course not. Of course not. But a lot of them are. And a lot of this comes from a desire to look after oneself first. Like, Dean Withers, in this clip, was crying because he was scared for himself. He even said in his apology for this, because he had to apologize for this, that the reason that he spoke about this the way that he did was because he was afraid of being targeted. Because he's also a public figure. He's also someone that makes public appearances. That's not an excuse. That's genuinely just being a coward. I think Dean was ready to throw hands with the right until it got real. Yeah, as many such cases. Until it got real. And then it got real and suddenly it's, I'm gonna keep my head down. Americoids might not understand that, but liberals are actually right-wing. They literally are, yes. The liberals are closer to the right wing than they are to the left. In fact, like, the political spectrum has changed so much that the right is so far beyond the right that they're kind of just up now. The right wing that we call the right wing is the up wing. It's the capitalist wing. Whereas the liberals now are the actual right wing, and the rest of us are the left. I used to call them left-ish, but no, they're just right-wingers. Yes, because Dean is also a fascist, just Nazis with glitter and cum. Well, collaborators are the same, yeah. Like, again, scratch a liberal and a fascist will bleed is a saying for a reason. And people don't like that. And I don't like necessarily saying that because a lot of liberals are the way that they are because of the system. Like, they've been educated and taught to be like that. But that difference only matters when we're not in a crisis situation. Because, yes, you can move those liberals to the left. It's just far easier when we're not in a crisis. When you exist in a crisis, you tend to double down on your own belief system. You tend to create in-groups. You tend to try and protect yourself above others. And so he leans into that. And that's what happens. That's why I was never in favor of, like, violent revolution. That's because that is what happens. Through, like, actual democratic means, there's a much higher chance of convincing these people, but of course we lost our democracy more than a decade ago. It was just not clear at the time. He's a privileged white boy, he doesn't get to worry about being targeted when other people are targeted. Well, I mean, so is Charlie Kirk, so, like, he could be targeted. It's just a matter of you should just accept the fact that you're going to get targeted by the Nazis for fighting against the Nazis. It's like, it's not about the privilege. It's about the fact that you're too much of a coward to make yourself a target when they want to kill. I mean, in fact, they are killing people. Just this week, we've had 2 lynchings of black people in Mississippi, and someone went and killed like 12 homeless people after Killmate went and said you should go kill homeless people. So, you know, like, they are killing people. You are a pussy and a coward and spineless and just as bad as the rest if you won't make yourself a target to stand against them. I'm perfectly willing to die. I don't care. What the fuck else am I going to do? What, I'm going to live and then, what, live with myself for not having done anything? Like, the fact that, like, there are people who can not risk their own safety and then not feel guilt about that. Not feel horrors about that. Be able to sleep at night. I guess Dem socks count as left wing? They do. Anything left of a liberal is left wing right now. Yeah, like, there's far-right flavors, then conservatives, then liberals, then centrists, and so none of that shit matters. There is the left, and then there are zombies, let us be. And the liberals are just vegan zombies. Yeah, so we're the Nazis. Yeah, a symptom of material conditions. So yes, lack of education, sure. Fascists with glitter. Like, we're the Nazis. They are the Nazis. They're on the same side. Now, like, am I calling Dean Withers himself a Nazi? Not necessarily, but it doesn't matter, because he's functionally still siding with them. By saying that. And again, like, don't believe that fucking apology. He wouldn't have said that if he didn't believe it. If shit didn't get too real for him, he would have continued on his own rhetoric. And so, in practice, it's literally the same, yeah. And, like, in theory, sure, but that doesn't even really matter anymore. And it's not just, Dean. I mean, we're at a level of psychosis that I can't even imagine. Look at this. Here's, Drew Pavlau, or whatever, some Aussie liberal, who's not a liberal, really, who's essentially just another fascist. Rewriting history to a degree of insanity. It's an honor to meet you, Mr. X. You're all right for a white boy, Charlie. Malcolm X would never. First off, the fact that Charlie Kirk is in heaven. Funny. Secondly, Malcolm X would never say that. And, like, this is not even about Charlie Kirk. Put that to the side for a second. I don't give a fuck about that. This is about Malcolm X. Tell me you know literally nothing about any kind of history. Psychic damage? Yeah, sorry. Drew Pavlov's politics confuse me to no end because his politics is just whatever makes him money and gives him attention, as with most liberals. What camera rank? I've explained fascism to many people who just shrug they're Nazis too. Yeah. Look, like, to be the Nazi, you don't have to be frothing at the mouth wanting to Heil Hitler. Just being okay with them is enough. Again, like, there's a reason we have these sayings. These are long-standing historical, like, adages. If there are 6 Nazis at a table and you sit down, there are now 7 Nazis at the table. The funnier part is this bottom part, though. Edit. I just discovered Malcolm X was a member of the Nation of Islam rather than a Christian. We'll keep this in mind for the future. My guy, read a book. Watch a fucking video essay. Like, do anything other than speaking, because, like, you shouldn't be. And then goes around saying this shit. Australian leftists are calling for me to be, quote, addressed, code word for killed, because I criticized their Charlie Kirk murder celebrations. He's saying this in relation to this Twitter user. The amount of shit this cunt has caused over the last few days needs to be addressed, as it has resulted in multiple deaths and rape threats. That is not a code word for being killed. But it just goes to show what right-wingers actually want to do. And this is a right-winger. Call himself a liberal all he wants. He's a fascist. No, because learning is woke, therefore bad. Yeah, absolutely. But also, like, telling the truth is woke and therefore bad. Really? Like, the amount of shit this cunt has caused over the last few days needs to be addressed. That's a death threat to these people. Just jumping on board with the American rhetoric, you know? Why not? Well, let's have a look at what else is coming out of the wasteland today. We've had some big news that came out just before I started stream, so we'll touch on those. But it's more than just that, unfortunately. It's pretty bad. Bear with me for a moment. Starting off with this, just from like last hour, from the White House. I am pleased to inform our many USA patriots that I am designating Antifa, a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization. I will also be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I like trains. How could you post a death threat like that? Literally, yeah. Now, we all know that Antifa's not like an organized group. There is no centralized organized Antifa leadership. Antifa literally just means someone who hates fascists. No one's funding Antifa. Ain't no one funding. Why would rich people fund Antifa when Antifa hates rich people? Because rich people are fascists. No, there's no funding. This is an excuse to direct attacks at the broader Democrat Party, the DSA, Mamdani, and people like me, people like Hassan, leftists online, like all of that. This is just being able to fold it all in. It's also an excuse to continue doing what they did during the last regime, the last administration, in which they would go out and have their right-wing militias go and do violence, and then they would say that Antifa did it, and we would then have to argue, well, no, actually, it was them. And fuck that, I'm not arguing with them. Who cares anymore? Do not try and argue with them. Genuinely, I firmly believe that the real fight is now international. The home front has collapsed, and I don't really see much of a shot for change in the U.S. until after we go to war and then have some, like, disillusioned veterans come back. I'm sorry to be truthful with you here. I just don't really see much of an opportunity or even, like, the ability to continue to organize or speak. I think the strongest fighters in America need to get out and go and help create an international, like, web of groups, a decentralized insurgency movement, which is exactly what Republicans have done for the last 10 years. Again, a political insurgency, a rhetorical one, not a physical one, doesn't matter. Like, you need money for this, of course. Especially if we're talking, like, being able to travel and create meetings and all of that. But, like, just move to a different country and create the movement there. We need this. We're the only ones who can. Again, World War II could not have been won without the German Jews who escaped Nazi Germany and helped the Allies fight. And, like, to be clear, like, barely won. But it's scary when some of them wear masks sometimes, unlike the ICE Gestapo wears masks nonstop. True. Get fucked, Donnie. You cunts have been investigating me for years already. I hope you have some brand new techniques. Get fucked entirely. Well, you know, it's not just them getting fucked. Unfortunately, The Onion's doing real news again.
Personal, politically, environmentally, personally, there's really no facet of your life where you aren't completely and totally goddamn boned. Like 6 ways to Sunday. And the reason we know this is because of the data. We used an advanced regression model to find that you are either totally, entirely, or marginally fucked. Any other non-fucked scenario is statistically insignificant. Ironically, the more you struggle against it, the more fucked you are, which is why our recommendation now is that you just bend over and take it.
I say you should still struggle against it even though you're more fucked. She is correct.
But if I could offer one glimmer of hope, it's this. Even though you and everyone you love are all thoroughly and utterly fisted, it will all be over soon.
What a wild thing to come on into stream and hear. I mean, yeah. Latino Mifune, I think we should stop calling it Antifa and call it anti-fascism. Makes it rhetorically more difficult for them to attack anti-fascism. It won't work because they are literally, like, pro-fascism. Here, I'll show you. But, I have a better idea. Why don't we just, like, call it a nationalist party and then lie about what nationalism is? That's literally, like, the opposite of what they talk about how they love democracy and are the most anti-democratic people in the world. Just make a nationalist party and then just use non-socialist words while doing actual socialist shit. Who cares? Who cares? It doesn't matter anymore. What was I looking at? Oh, yeah.
Well, he was anti-fascist, so he was clearly on the left. Well, actually, some of those references are more... What did you just say? Anti-fascist, so he was clearly on the left. Well, actually, some of those references are more... What did you just say?
You know what? Good. Because I did mess up what I was saying, so I'm glad I was muted, so I get to start that over and say it clearly. Yeah, that won't work because lefties don't get duped like zombies do. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. The left-ish population is just vegan zombies. There is no functional difference here. It doesn't matter at all. In fact, like, to take it even a step further, the fact that we're here now is because the left got duped. There's also, like, 30 real leftists left. So, you know. I mean, I agree. It's how my little group formed, patriotism and disillusionment. I firmly believe that the way to go is that. Because right now, the United States is becoming, what do I call it? Greater St. James, let's say. Let's just leave it at that. They're making the U.S. into Greater St. James. I mean, it depends on what you mean by duped. By duped, I mean bought into the messaging because you didn't look into it further. Like, again, like, there are people currently glazing Tucker Carlson who's about to run for a nationalist party in the U.S. It doesn't matter. I don't know. I haven't finished it either. I've seen like 7 episodes. State your thesis. I know enough. I know that it is a literal symbol that is banned in Indonesia currently and is the symbol of the revolution in Nepal. So, you know, I say we bring it back. When fascists call themselves fascist, it's too late. Yeah, like the thing is, like they only drop the euphemism when they no longer need it. There is no more stigma for being open fascists. In fact, like here, let me prove it to you. This is from today. Laura Loomer. Oh, sorry, not today. This is from this week, rather. I was thinking about this over the last few nights while I couldn't sleep. I have to say I do want President Trump to be a dictator the left thinks that he is. I want our rights to be as devoted to locking up and... I want the right, rather, to be as devoted to locking up and silencing our violent political enemies as they pretend we are. I've had enough of the left only thinking we will defund them and prosecute them, lock them up and dismantle their power for generations to come. It needs to happen. They are openly pro-fascism. Also, what we have in America is actual fascism, not just the exaggeration of the word. When corporations enact the will of the state to oppress or silence the people, you have fascism. Legitimately. I mean, like, every scholar is calling it textbook fascism, so, you know. But, you know, don't take my word for it. Let's look at some of the evidence. For example, Trump says he'll consider banning the LGBTQ pride flag in alarming Oval Office exchange. Yep, no, pride flags are going to get banned. What else we got? We got Disney pulling Jimmy Kimmel indefinitely after he like made a comment about Charlie Kirk. I don't even know what the fuck he said. It doesn't matter because I know that Jimmy Kimmel didn't say anything half as true as I did. Oh, and you want it to get worse? Here we go. The CEOs of Discord, Steam, Twitch, and Reddit, and also I think more now, are going to have an oversight committee hearing with the government. They'll be examining the radicalization of online forum users, including instances of open incitement to commit politically motivated acts of violence. As in, they're coming for the streamers, the content creators. Bye, guys. We're gone now. It's over. I got a fucking bone to pick with most of the left at the moment. Weimar mindset. I mean, yeah. Weimar mindset has been ongoing. MAGA is still complaining about people outside their party correctly call them fascist. The fact that this alone bothers them still tells me a lot. No, see, but you misunderstand, Latina Mufune. They only get bothered by the fact that you're calling them a fascist. They are happily fascists. They just don't want to be called that. That's the difference. Like, they'll call themselves it. They don't want you to call them it because they don't want you to have any speech or power. They don't want you to have any rhetoric. It's just a way of attacking the left. It has nothing to do with how they feel. They are proud of being fascist. They talk amongst this openly amongst each other, regularly, all the time. Like, non-media wise. If you go and find like a recording that someone takes inside of like even just like a right-wing church or in any kind of right-wing group that's not meant to be published, they are all openly in favor of fascism. It is not about them feeling shame or guilt or embarrassment or anger at you calling them out. It's just the fact that you get to speak that bothers them. Censorship reminds me of family stories under Polish People's Republic when Poland was Soviet. I mean, yeah. Here's Gutfield on The Five just yesterday.
Don't need it. What is interesting here is why is only this happening on the left and not the right? That's all we need to know. There's absolutely no cognitive...
What about Melissa Hortman that we just talked about?
You want to talk about Melissa Hortman? Did you know her name before?
I mean, Gutfield literally said on Fox News that he was okay with being called a Nazi, and then said he should that they should start like using Nazi like black people use the N-word and greet each other with "What's up, my Nazi?" Like that's what they said on Fox News. I'm saying it tells us a lot that they know they can't openly be proud fascists. No, they can. That's not why they're doing it. You're misunderstanding. It's not because that they feel like they can't be openly proud fascists. It's just another way of fucking with you. It's a way of pissing you off. It's not because they can't say like do it. It's because it makes you mad. And it's because you can't like use that against them. That's the point. It's a way of just trolling the left. It's a way of shutting down any real discourse, but not because they're afraid of that discourse, just because fuck you. That's why. Like objectively so. And it's been like this for a long time, really. Why does he have poo-themed cups on his desk? Because he's a shit eater.
Before it happened, none of us did. None of us were spending every single day talking about Mrs. Hortman. I never heard of her until after she died.
She doesn't matter?
Don't play that bullshit with me. You know what I'm saying is there was no demonization, amplification about that woman
Republican Senator Mike Lee.
Before she died. It was a specific crime against her by somebody who knew her. The same. Now you could bring up Josh Shapiro, but then you will not bring up, for example, that was a pro-Palestine person. So don't use your what about this? The fact of the matter is the both sides argument not only doesn't fly. We don't care. We don't care about your both sides argument. That shit is dead. For one thing, there is no cognitive dissonance on our side. On your side, your beliefs do not match reality.
It's incredibly fun. They're going to keep doing that, though. It's not even funny anymore, really. The every accusation is a confession part. It's not even funny.
So you're coming up with these rationalizations like, what about this? Or what about that? We're not doing that because we saw it happen. We saw a young, bright man assassinated, and we know who did it. We are not coming up with...
Yeah. Who did it? Gutfield, who did it?
Rationalizations. We are calm. We are honest, and we are resolute. We're not defensive, and I understand the defensiveness. I understand why people are saying, what about this and what about this? Because if you have to face the underlying fact to this, your life is going to fall apart.
Y'all, I gotta say, they are not gonna take it well when the big man dies. If they thought this celebration was big, they're not prepared for what comes when he goes. There's no cognitive dissonance on our side. It's very funny. Yeah, what an angry little man. True. Fucking bad artist, man. Hitler comes to mind. We gotta stop letting these people think that anyone can do art. True. MAGA still complains about being called fascist. Yes, but it's to own the libs. It's not because they care about being called fascist, Latino Mafune. They complain about it because you want to call them a fascist. Not because they care about being called a fascist. It's just so that you can't say it. It's not about the actual word. They proudly are fascists. They just want to own the libs, and they just want to censor your speech for fun. Like, for actual fun. And that's it. Like, it's just that simple. It's just that simple. And, like, the idea that, like, cognitive dissonance doesn't exist on their side is absolutely laughable. Again, this is currently on American radio. Wait, not this one. This one. This is playing on American radio. No cognitive dissonance whatsoever, considering half your side hates the Jews.
Seeing the rise of anti-Semitism around the world like never before. For many poor elderly Jews, their dream of making Aliyah one day and coming home to Israel is extremely difficult, if not impossible. But you can change all of that today for one precious Jew. Even in a time of war, the safety and shalom of moving to Israel under God's protection and his covenant promise to bring his chosen people home is why we're asking you today to partner with us. The cost to rescue one Jew and purchase a seat on an upcoming Fellowship Aliyah Freedom Flight is $710. With a donation to the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews of $35, you'll help one poor elderly Jew out of a life of hope.
Insane. Insane. That reminded me, by the way, I wanted to show this video when we were still talking about Israel, but I totally forgot. It is actually incredibly
Smart
funny.
people don't like saying pig in Arabic.
Hey, shush.
They don't like what we talk about, but...
Sorry, I had to mute that fucking annoying autoplay. This was so incredibly funny.
Yo.
I'm probably going to get in trouble for showing this, but it is factual. This is the truth. This is, how you say the word pig in several different dialects of Arabic.
Everybody. Yo, how do you say pig in Arabic? Khanzir, khanzir, khanzir, khanzir. Israel. That works? Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Agreed. Hold up, let me check on kalam.
Israel. I did not know that in previous to seeing this video. It is true, and it's incredibly funny.
Khanzir, khanzir, Israel. That works? Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Agreed. Hold up, let me check on kalam.
إسرائيل.
We picked the right word for cops. Back to Gutfield.
Because you're going to realize you're not the good guys. If you sat around and you defended the mutilation of children, you're not the good guy.
How many of you laugh at mutilation of children in Gaza? A lot of you, actually.
If you sat 600, 700 cases of harassment against Republicans and you said, but what about this? What about this? And then you see this murder.
700 harassment of Republican cases, about 60 to 70 billion harassment of everyone not a Republican by the Republicans.
After calling somebody a fascist, you realize maybe I'm not the good guy. That is a hell of a realization to deal with. So therefore, you have to grasp at
Well, again, it's gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss because it's fun for them. They enjoy that. The gaslighting is part of their owning the libs. It is pleasurable to them. They enjoy suffering.
Rationalizations. You don't have to do that, Jessica. They do. I don't believe you're part of that group, but why the hell do you have to mimic and echo that crap to us? He was a patsy. That guy was a patsy. He was under the hypnotic spell of a direct-to-consumer nihilism, the trans cult.
He was a nihilist, a direct-to-consumer nihilist. It had nothing to do with trans people, though. It was Groypers, again. Again, it doesn't even matter if he himself was knowingly a Groyper. He was in Groyper culture. Plenty of people aren't Nick Fuentes fans, but still engage in Groyper culture because it's pretty widespread on, internet forums. It's widespread. Hell, literally, the Pepe emote that is in every single live stream comes from that culture.
And you know that. If you can decide that biology is false, you can agree that murder is okay and that humanity is expendable.
Says the people literally making death threats on an industrial scale.
How you cannot see that alone and see that for what the evil it is without having to attach all of these other things is beyond me.
I just want to be clear. I want to let people.
You notice that they can barely hide their smiles, right? If you're watching this with a bit more high quality, go look at Waters at any point in time when he's saying this shit. He's smiling.
Speak. I in no way intended at all to minimize what happened to Charlie. I was horrified by it. I have not been on the five
but
since
the two
then.
sides argument, it's like pig Latin to a duck.
No. All that I was saying is could we have all of the information before you just say they did this? Because that is a broad brush to paint.
The information we have says that this is exactly what we expected it to be, and it's just another fucking, politically incoherent nihilist that was influenced by political ideas online, primarily that of the right. I mean, hear me out, I would still cry if I were to think that a child could be a terrorist in the making. Even if your bullshit was true, I'd still want that child to be fulfilled. Still. You know what I'm realizing? That liberal lady is also on that show because its audience enjoys seeing a woman yell at a woman yelled at by men. Literally, yeah, that's why she's there. Hassan commented on the fact that we're gonna have all of the, Discord, Twitch, Steam, Reddit, YouTube CEOs coming and having a, oversight hearing about allowing, extremist voices on the platforms, by which, they mean the obvious. And Hassan actually hits the nail on the head here. Twitch is not a factor in the Tyler Robinson investigation at all, and yet they want to bring the platform into the story. There is a sinister reason for this, and I think you all know what that is. Oh, by the way, you know who's not invited to testify at this oversight hearing? Elon Musk. Even though the Colorado school shooting that happened the same day, within the same hour as the Charlie Kirk shooting, was, the guy who did it posted a photo of himself holding his gun right on Twitter. But does Elon Musk have to go to a hearing and testify on extremists on his platform? No, not at all. Why would he? Why would he? Well, I'll tell you why. Oh, you know, Trump will tell you why, actually.
Smart people don't like me, you know. Smart people don't like me, you know. And they don't like what we talk about. But he's become radicalized. So many things have been learned about him so quickly. He's become totally radicalized and crazy. And it must have been traumatic because the
Nothing this man has said has ever been more true than smart people don't like me. This is the evolution of I love the poorly educated. Bro said smart people. Yeah, he did. He said smart people don't like me. That is what he said. And again, like, he's not wrong. Yeah, aware at least. By the way, again, just know that it has nothing to do with the actual rhetoric. They're just mad at anyone that they could possibly imagine is talking badly about them. Hell, one of the people that just got arrested under the new, order to arrest violent extremists didn't even say anything about Charlie Kirk. It was someone who just said that the Trump administration was bad. That was it. Like, he talked shit about the administration months ago, too. Look at this. Here is, a right-winger, like, frothing at the mouth to, get some Bethesda employee fired and killed for posting a video of the game Indiana Jones. Not even, like, anything of their own.
Huh. Nice place. You don't care much about these fascists, do you?
Wow, this is a company account. Get them out. Like, they're aware that they're the fascists. They're fully aware. The idea of get them out isn't, they're calling me a fascist and I'm offended. It's, that's an anti-fascist. Kill them. That's what they're doing. Sees Indiana Jones petting a cat while calling actual Nazis fascists. Assumes it's related to Kirk. It's not. It's not related to Kirk. It doesn't matter. It's not that assumption. That's him speaking off the dome, no written speech. Also true, yeah. Then we have this, just today. Kristi Noem personally joined ICE in Chicago for a raid and arrested a U.S. citizen. And then made a propaganda video about it. He was woken up by explosions that literally blew his door off his house. Agents handcuffed him and then featured him in a propaganda video, which they released even after the arrest was proven to be a mistake. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem shared the video on social media of 4 men, including Joe Patello, being dragged out of his house. Neither the video nor her message admits that this is a U.S. citizen that they were forced to release. For now. Again, forced to release. For now. That is the most telling self-report imaginable. True, yeah. Bethesda has always been political, especially with Morrowind. But again, it doesn't matter. They don't care about reality. It doesn't even relate. Like, that's a fascist saying you need to kill the people who talk about the fascists because they're not fascist. Like, you can say pro-fascist things and they will applaud you. You could say I'm pro-fascism on Twitter and they will applaud you. But if you say anything anti-fascist, they will all pile on you and pretend like it's because they're offended. But it's not because they're offended. You're just the enemy. And this is how the Russians function too. This is literally what the Russians do with Ukraine. They call them Nazis. Even though the Russians themselves are the Nazis. It's not because the Russians are embarrassed or don't want to be called Nazis. No, they just, they use it as a weapon. Troy Reed's recent rant was pretty spot on. Kind of sad to think about, but spot on. I haven't seen it. If you're debating with a Republican face-to-face, it actually throws them off when you call them a fascist. That's because people face-to-face are entirely different than they are online. And, people don't expect the same amount of combativeness from a debate in person. But they're still just as proud of it. It puts them on the defense because you are an anti-fascist. And they can't be anonymous when they say, kill the anti-fascist, I'm a fascist. They're more embarrassed about it in person, but they're not embarrassed about it. It's just when it's in a way that weakens their argument. And in person, it's much easier for that to weaken their argument. To be fair, it will be about a month before, saying Nazis are bad gets you arrested. Genuinely, they will be arresting people for saying Hitler is, a Nazi soon.
I spoke to that contractor over there. He was called by the homeowner to repair the damage. He says both the front door and back door are busted in. Now, Secretary Kristi Noem sent out a tweet that reads in part, "I was on the ground in Chicago today to make it clear we are not backing down." That post on X also included video showing several people being led away in handcuffs. We have witness video that was taken after a...
Nah, call them a liberal. Genuinely, don't call them an oversensitive snowflake. Don't say facts, don't care about your feelings. Just say that they're a liberal. Was from Destiny's Reddit on my favorite Reddit page. Didn't they just like call for death threats for Destiny on like Fox News? I saw a Hassan video on that. I didn't actually see the video. I just saw the headline for it. But you know, she joined an ice raid. It's just like South Park. This is not the first one that she's joined either. I'll take a look at that in a bit. Let's get through these. But I do want to see what Joy Reid did have to say. I'm interested. This is a call for debate. Make fascists embarrassed again. The sunlight of words should make them cry and fear and anxiety after the debates. Well, like, here's the thing, right? We can never have useful debates again unless the debate is done without an audience. That's it. No more audience debates. Like, you can have a debate, you can pre-record it, and then release it to the audience afterward. I saw a video recently. Someone was like, this is how debates work from now on. You debate alone. No one gets to watch it live. And afterward, we all watch the debate together and then we can decide who won. But only if you came to an agreement in the debate. If you didn't come to an agreement during the debate, first you step outside and then go into the boxing ring. And then you fight physically. And then we can all watch the debate together and then decide who won the debate. Still, like, no one knows what happened in the debate until after the boxing, in that case. And who wins the fight makes no difference. We still watch the debate and we still decide who won the debate afterward. That's for the two debaters to let off some steam amongst themselves. You know what, honestly, I do kind of support that. I am not physically fit or strong. I would get my ass kicked if that meant that get to debate like people like that. I would win more of those debates. I mean, to be clear, I've won every debate I've ever done, but it would be more useful, let's say. Pluto famously debated himself via making up fictional characters like Socrates. Half joke.
Person describes hearing an explosion around 5:50 this morning. You can see armed officers shining flashlights at a door and into a window as well. Another neighbor told us about the response from law enforcement that came from the air.
Awakened at 20 to 6 by the drone event.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday! Our debate moderators will not be there. Instead, we have a boxing referee. A boxing match debate honestly sounds far more enjoyable and useful. I want every Jubilee video to be exactly that now.
Helicopter flying overhead, circling the house, circling the neighborhood, spotlight on, right over the house. Very unusual in our usually quiet neighborhood.
Back out here live, people in the neighborhood are slowly filtering over here to see this damage. Everyone walking up to us wants to know what the people were taken into custody for. Well, according to Secretary Noem, she indicated on social media their offenses include DUI, felony stalking, and assault. We know that members...
DUI, felony stalking, and assault just sounds like Pete Hegseth's fucking resume. Like, are you kidding?
Of a rapid response team are walking around the neighborhood trying to be on standby in case there are any more ICE arrests. I also wanted to tell you that Representative Lauren Underwood from the Northwest suburbs says she got debriefed by ICE recently, who told her that since September 6th, there have been 250 ICE arrests in the Chicago area. I'm Laura Victory reporting live in LG.
It's only just starting. In Chicago, at least. Oh, by the way, we're going to talk about how political rhetoric can lead to violence. How come Brian Kilmeade isn't getting arrested right now? Because this is directly his fault. This came immediately after he said we should go and execute homeless people. Well, you know what a Republican went and did after that? He went and executed homeless people.
But unfortunately, here we are yet again in the aftermath of a mass shooting. This is not normal. I'm providing details on yet another multiple victim shooting in which 8 people have been injured by gunfire.
How about we arrest
This
the
time-
radical terrorist who's causing political violence through their words on Fox News?
And this occurred at a homeless encampment. The people of Minneapolis deserve peace and safety. All residents of the city deserve that on their streets and in their neighborhoods and in their homes. And I know it's been a lot of violence lately, and we just want our community to know that we are not going to give up, and that we will continue to fight so that every person in this city can be safe.
He says it's not normal, but in Mother America. You're dead naming the country, Salamander Sapien. It's not Mother America, it's Greater St. James. That's the real name of the country now. 13 people were wounded over the span of 12 hours, 5 critically, and like that was just like yesterday. I don't know how many of those people are dead now. God knows
Personally,
how dead they are.
politically,
But again, just to really hammer that home, this is where we're at.
environmentally, personally, there's really no facet of your life where you aren't completely and totally goddamn boned. Like 6 ways to Sunday. And the reason we know this is because of the data. We used an advanced regression model to find that you are either totally, entirely, or marginally fucked. Any other non-fucked scenario is statistically insignificant. Ironically, the more you struggle against it, the more fucked you are, which is why our recommendation now is that you just bend over and take it. But if I could offer one glimmer of hope, it's this. Even though you and everyone you love are all thoroughly and utterly fisted, it will all be over soon.
True. Greater St. James is savage. Am I wrong, though? Let us be 3. I honestly don't know why the people in the EU keep talking about the America hoax. Savage. This woman lives in my head sometimes and does these calculations for me. True. She does that for all of us. Let's go, Greater St. James Project, inclusive of Greater Israel, Little St. James, and the New Moscow Republic of Confederated Freedom States, sponsored by Stake.com. And Coinbase. And Palantir. Really. And it gets worse, like a lot worse, as we keep going from here. For example, we've had lynchings again. Outrage grows after the body of a black student found hanging from a tree in Mississippi. In fact, it's actually 2 of them. Now, I can't read this article because I don't have the, login code. I don't pay for them, but investigations ongoing into the deaths of 2 Mississippi men found dead hanging from a tree on university campuses. I'm gonna tell you right fucking now. I do not care what they say. No one is, a black man in Mississippi who is going to commit suicide by hanging himself from a tree on a university campus. Just not happening. You can't make me believe that. I just don't care. So, it's immediately following the fact that they spent a couple weeks blaming black people for every crime when it was with that Ukrainian chick that got stabbed. And now, it's the same. It's trans people, black people, leftists, Muslims, everybody is the problem except for the actual terrorists. The ones that send messages like this to people's DMs. Commit suicide. If you don't have the self-respect to not be a whore, why should anyone respect you? Commit suicide. Commit suicide. Not only will you not fight for yourself, you won't even defend the people who did. He being Papin, who wanted to get rid of middle class and just return to slavery and authoritarianism, commit suicide. Again, these are the people that are the ones that do all of the violence, but no, they get to have their rights of free speech. We don't. We don't. Mississippi tried banning that Mississippi Burning movie that was about white mobs killing black people because some white person lied about black people assaulting her when it was some white dude, of course. Those students need to evacuate the campus. They are not safe there. I mean, I personally think that Americans need to evacuate the United States. Not only are they not safe there, they're far more useful to the resistance outside of the United States. Look, guys, the idea of a proper resistance forming, it's not happening. Even the way that we talk about a resistance movement in the United States is not accurate to reality. We need international growth of a movement. Like, it's just not happening.
There's a number going around right now, bouncing from social media post to podcast title to blog revelation like it's an Epstein list leak. 3.5% of the population participates in a protest movement. The regime will fall. It's everywhere. People talk about it like it's some sort of political law of gravity. Like if you hit the number, change becomes inevitable. It just happens. The system cracks. Wasn't
it like Black Lives Matter that had well over 3.5% population like out protesting at the time? Right now you can still like travel and leave, and maybe 3 months to a year you will have to defect. Yeah.
Authority stops. It's a magical elixir. It won't, because that's not how power works. It's certainly not how this regime works. And it's not how resistance works. And that's not what the original research claimed either. Erica Chenoweth and Mariah Stephan did rigorous work. They tracked hundreds of mass movements in the 20th and early 21st centuries and found that nonviolent campaigns with 3.5% active participation were more likely to succeed, depending upon how you define success. That's historically, that's retrospectively. They didn't say that number causes success. And to their credit, they have gone out of their way to correct people who treat it like it's a cheat code and to caution against overreading any success of nonviolent opposition. Nonviolent opposition has real limits. But that's what
it's only really feasible under certain circumstances, ones that we don't exist in anymore. Now, am I calling for that? No, of course not. I'm still calling for rhetoric. I'm calling for American partisans to leave the United States, to travel to other countries, to help set up international decentralized groups that will resist, that will come together and resist, that will spread the resistance around their countries. We see Nazism growing all around the world. We need a counter. And the only effective counter is going to come from people who have dealt with the most overt westernized kind of this particular brand of fascism, of Nazism, and those people are American partisans.
It's become this kind of leftish talisman.
Hey, I say leftish. I've been saying that since last year.
Another shortcut, another way to avoid the actual work and the actual cost of resistance. Hey folks, I'm Tad Sturmer. I'm a scholar of resistance at the University of Southern Denmark and the author of the forthcoming A Resistance History of the United States, coming at you next year from Steerforth Press. I study resistance, not protest. I look at the moments in history when people directly confronted abusive authority, when they acted not because it was safe, not because they were guaranteed success, but because they refused to be complicit any longer in the abuse of authority.
And that's exactly what we've been doing, is being complicit. All like as a country, as a planet, really.
They didn't wait for legitimacy. They didn't appeal to the system for recognition. They forced a response because allowing the abuse to continue was not an option. They took risk. They endured failure. And most of the time, the power they resisted survived. Most of the time, they failed. So it's not a study for the faint of heart. It is a depressing study in many ways. But we don't find the lessons in just what worked. We find them in what was required. That is looking at 16 different case studies of resistance moments across 350 years of United States history and 21 moments from around the globe in the 20th and 21st centuries. And that's what the 3.5% crowd misses. They're not looking for resistance. They're looking for an easy, non-risky reset button. The key point is that mass mobilization in and of itself isn't enough and never has been. That 3.5% threshold has been met many times, and it didn't matter. Let's take a look at Prague 1968. 1968, that year alone, a case study for this kind of thing. The population mobilized, especially students. Protests spread across the country, something like 500,000 Czechs. The state, as reformist as it was already, fractured until Moscow rolled in and shut it down. The numbers were there, and it wasn't enough. Why? Because who else was there? The Warsaw Pact. Ireland 1916. We need to take a closer look at Irish resistance. The Easter
Sorry, I'm not saying anything because I have nothing to add, like no notes.
Rising was decisive. It is an incredibly important moment, but it didn't collapse British rule. What shifted Ireland was the backlash. the executions, the overreach, the increased exposure of British imperial brutality.
By the way, this is what I mean when I say your job at a protest is getting the shit kicked out of you by the police. That's why. Because he's right. It wasn't the movement that radicalized the Irish. It's the executions and the retaliation. Remember, the Irish resistance didn't work, and even they failed. Yeah. Yeah.
It was the backlash, the executions, the overreach, the increased exposure of British imperial brutality. That catalyzed mass support, that prompted organized opposition, and that led to organized resistance. But even then, the Free State was years away. The rising itself, not enough. In the George Floyd protests a couple of years ago, 20 million people took to the streets.
Jeez,
that's not
I didn't know it was that many.
That's documented participation.
I thought it was mostly like 12, 13, 14 million. I did not think we hit 20 million. That's well above 3.5%.
More than 6% of the U.S. population.
Oh, there you go. It's 6%. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's even above 5%.
Population. What followed? Corporate statements, fleeting reforms, and a coordinated backlash. The system adapted. It didn't fall.
People still to this day think that the George Floyd protest burned down half the country. They're still talking about it. They're still doing their propaganda on it. Their anti-resistance propaganda. Even from that.
Defund what? And no kings, give me a break. But I do get lots of emails asking me for money. So what exactly is the 3.5% supposed to mean? Resistance that matters doesn't look like a crowd. It looks like pressure. Not a spectacle, but a structural threat. It's the moment when power starts to lose control, when it has to recalibrate or recalculate, not because of how many people oppose it, but because it can't maintain obedience. It can't retain function.
And this is why I tell you to not gather in a large crowd in a protest. Don't stand in one place. Break off into 8 to 12 person groups. Go and patrol city routes. Go and occupy the city. That's how you take their power away. That is how you reach a point where they can't make you obedient. There's too many of you and you're too spread out. If you're all in one place, then they only have to be in one place too.
Can't adapt fast enough. Denmark, 1943. The Nazi regime wasn't disrupted by protest. It was non-cooperation, labor strikes, sabotage, refusal to enforce anti-Jewish policies. The resistance made the occupation harder to maintain. A place that the Nazis thought was safe was their model protectorate, turned into one of their worst nightmares. Black loyalists during the American Revolution, they didn't appeal for inclusion into the patriots' mindset.
Yeah, but the protesters do have nothing to lose. They just don't think that they do, Salamander Sapien. Like your job and your benefits is already gone. It just hasn't happened yet. It's gone already. It's only when everything is at stake that people get serious, and that's often when it's too late. That's why protests are only on Saturdays. And that's why it's often too late.
They defected. They walked away from patriot control.
This is why I think that the home front is collapsed. Like, the fight back home is over, at least for a while. We need to pivot and prepare for a international movement. And then after some more stuff happens, some more time passes, that movement will grow again in America. It's not dead. It's just taking a nap for a bit.
And forced the British to choose between policy and principle. That act of resistance broke the Patriots' illusion of stability. Kansas Free Staters. They didn't hold rallies, they built governments, courts, militias, newspapers. That wasn't a protest movement. That was a parallel power established in defiance of federal authority. And now, look at the people putting themselves between the modern Gestapo and their targets, making them move hotels, quit their jobs, being miserable every day when they go on assignment to kidnap people for the state. Digital harassment, doxing. ICE has to recalibrate, reconsider, understand that there's a price to pay for abusing authority, for hurting people.
And that's just with the tiny amount of people doing that. Like, it is very effective if you're willing to take the risk. And again, like, it's too late by the time you're convinced that you have nothing to lose.
Masks can't hide everything. Now, that's not violent, but it also ain't peaceful. That's what we call disobedience. Thoreau would be thrilled Your job is to take people. You might have to lose a little part of yourself, your peace. Wake up with that every morning, ICE. You multiply that energy by 1,000 with all of the personal risk, all the arrests, all the dangers that the resistors are risking. Then you've got...
Mind you, there are people in America right now doing full resistance shit on camera, no mask. The ICE Nazis, they wear their masks. They're the cowards. The people who actually do things to fight back, they're not hiding who they are. They're willing to die. And you need to be, because that's how war works. You're fighting for your country, your freedom, your neighbors, your lives, your, like, everything. It's not even just you. It's a global movement. This has nothing to do with just American fascism. This is a global movement. These people are a threat to humanity. Well, yeah, also, if you've lost so much that you have no job and no money, you can't exactly strike or make economic impact. Yeah, and if you haven't prepared for it well ahead of time, and you are suddenly left jobless, you also won't have the, like, ability to actually go and you need to be able to feed yourself. You need to have connections. You need to know people. Like, you need to prepare before you need to be ready to do that. Got shadow banned for saying that we need to use better ground tactics and not get funneled like we do. Riot Summer is Brad. True.
Something. In every one of those cases, it wasn't mass participation that mattered. It was what the participation did, the pressure it imposed, the systems it broke, it stressed, and the alternatives it created. The way the 3.5% myth gets used now is part of a bigger failure, what we might call the TED Talk or ChatGPT strategy. Surface level insight, stripped of analysis, risk, consequence, reality. It looks like a lesson. It's familiar, but it ain't. Just like a TED Talk, right? It packages discomfort into something digestible, a takeaway, something you can quote without having to do anything. And just like ChatGPT, it mimics structure, but it doesn't interrogate meaning. It connects dots, but it doesn't act if they're the right ones. They just look right. And that's what the liberal imagination keeps doing. That's what the leftist and kind of what passes in America for the left.
I don't understand that. Salamander Sapien. The amount of people that I know when we go around asking about strike stuff who go, oh, but I can't afford a strike. I don't understand that. Literally, that's why you need to strike. That's literally how we got labor rights to begin with, is by striking when you couldn't afford it. You need to strike specifically because you can't afford it. That's the only reason you should. Like, right now. Well, I mean, that's the only reason. There's a few reasons you should, but I mean, like, that alone should be enough. It should be enough. By the way, on strikes and, you know, the labor fight, look what just came out this week. Life working in a prison cuts fear and understaffing at Trump's labor department. Oh, sorry, like working in a prison. About 20% of staff at the U.S. Department of Labor have resigned or retired ahead of threatened cuts at the agency. The agency has also proposed nearly 150 derogatory actions proposed to eliminate minimum wage and overtime protections for 3.7 million domestic care workers. Sorry, your minimum wage, the thing that you fought for and died for in the streets, gone. Overtime protections, gone. The Secretary of Labor's Chief of Staff sent out a memo in April 2025 to all department employees warning they could face serious legal consequences if they speak to the media. From cutting $500 million in grants dedicated towards fighting child labor and forced child labor abroad. Like, that's why we had the fucking economic strikes to begin with. Talking to working class people reveals so many contradictions in the working class mindset, it's challenging. Yeah, those contradictions are put there. That's why I mean, like, the fight back home is over right now. Like, it's not going to be viable again until the regime starts a war, pisses off a lot of people, and then veterans from that war come back. I said much of the working class is unalivably oppressed. It's rough? Yeah, basically.
Keeps doing. First it was, the Constitution will save us. Then the courts will stop this. Then Congress might impeach him again. Or Jamie Raskin's subpoenas, or Hakeem Jeffries' baseball bat, or Cory Booker's speech, or maybe just walk out of a committee vote. That'll get him. Too bad about PBS. Let's push send on a tweet. And now it's, we just need to get enough people in the streets. 3.5%, let's hit it. And it's all the same delusion, that there's a fix out there that doesn't require sacrifice. That if we hit the right number or file the right lawsuit or hold the right march, the system will self-correct.
This is not going to stop until people sacrifice, take a loss. It's just not. No one's coming to save us. There is no institution that can do this. There is no law that matters. There's nothing they won't do to you. And, like, you know what? I was gonna save this one for tomorrow, and I still will bring it up tomorrow, but I think it's important to touch on because people don't understand that what we're seeing right now is part one. It's just part one. They haven't even begun yet, really, on the main project. The main project comes next. And what is that main project? Well, let's take a look at a certain billionaire. And it's not one that we often talk about here. It's not Teal, for example, who is the Antichrist. It's Larry.
I had no idea. Like, honestly, it is disconcerting. It is terrifying to think about how much power this person has had over my life, and I just had no clue. I'm talking about, like, every morning when I wake up and I get on my phone, I'm working for him. Anytime I go to the doctor's office, I'm apparently working for him. Anytime I go for a goddamn walk, I'm working for him. And if you're watching this video on TikTok, then you're working for him too. That's right, babe, you are clocked in. And while this job doesn't pay you, it will cost you. So this is the first video of what is likely to be many in a series because there's no way I can cover just how creepy this guy is in one
Hell, even I learned something from this one.
video. But more importantly, the entire series, the full story, is going to be on my Substack. And that's really important because given the climate on TikTok, I don't imagine that these videos are going to be kept up long because...
By the way, that climate on TikTok, Larry's doing.
What I'm about to tell you is going to piss a lot of
owns the TikTok data in the US.
But let's meet your boss, Larry Ellison. He's a spry 81 years old, worth $140 billion, and calling him a tech billionaire would be like calling a bomb maker a mechanic. I promise I am not being dramatic when I say that this man is a systems megalomaniac who is orchestrating the most audacious consolidation of power in modern history. Our story starts in 1977 at a high-powered security facility in Langley, Virginia, the CIA headquarters. They needed a system that could answer any question about anyone at any time, where they went, who they talked to, what they did, and the project codename became Oracle. See, for someone like Ellison, this project was more than just a contract. It was a revelation. I mean, it changed everything, because it was during this time that he discovered the most valuable
Yep, exactly. Salamander Sapien.
Product.
He also owns Paramount already. I don't know if Paramount owns NBC or CNN, I can't remember. But like Warner Brothers, like they're buying everything. He's a lot worse than most people. Like Peter Thiel is the Antichrist, and Larry Ellison is somehow worse.
That you can sell to power, certainty. And follow the money here, right? Because uncertainty is not just something that governments fear, it's something that they will clearly pay billions of dollars to eliminate. When chaos erupts, like it is today, when markets panic, when society feels just generally unstable, who benefits? Who gets the contracts? The man who promises to bring order through...
Oh, no. Larry wrote Orban's playbook. Larry Ellison built China's surveillance system, Salamander Sapien.
Data. And this brings us to the next part of our story, 9/11. Yes, while the rest of America was reeling from the attacks, Ellison saw an opportunity. He immediately started pushing for this idea of a national ID system where he was arguing that if we just had a better system that could identify everybody and track them, then we could prevent further attacks. Now, the government didn't really bite back then, but he did learn something crucial in that moment, which is that crisis creates a demand for his product. And now he's scaling up in ways that would make George Orwell himself blush. You remember when he bought Paramount Pictures for his son? You know, the one that ended in a quid pro quo, and they fired Stephen Colbert in favor of Trump advertising space and got rid of all DEI initiatives and hired an ombudsman, not because Larry's into like the surveillance state or anything, but because this is good business acumen. right? These are all rational business decisions, right? Now, breaking news, his next target seems to be going after Warner Brothers Discovery for their IP library. You know, not even 5 weeks after they closed on Paramount Pictures and laid off 20,000 people. So when I say that this guy's a megalomaniac, I mean it. He bought 98% of the island of Lanai so that he could bioengineer this genetically modified lettuce or something like that. He's working on surveillance systems with the Air Force in Israel. He's a majority owner of TikTok's data in the US, and he's largely the reason why the app is changing its community guidelines.
Also a large part of why everyone else is too, because like he's kind of he's the one that most of the tech like billionaires respect. Teal is the Antichrist, Ellison is Skynet in this edition of Choose Your Own Apocalyptic Adventure. See, the thing is, it's worse because we don't get to choose. We get both the Antichrist and Skynet. Honestly, at this point, Latino Mifune, I'm fucking hoping the Christians are right, because if they are, that means there is an actual Christ too. And that means he's on our side.
Right now, you know, to favor his and his buddies' political needs. I mean, he is our bridge to China. He's the reason that China does business with us. He does so much business with China. He helped get NVIDIA's chip over to China. I mean, they love him over there. Why wouldn't they? He built the surveillance systems for their government. But the thing that gets me is like, when is it enough? You know, when you have $140 billion to your name and your company is scaling larger and larger every day, then money becomes more of a scorecard than it does a number in your bank account. What is left to get? Because I have to believe he's not just looking to make more money, right? That's not why he's continuing to do this at 81 years old. And from everything that I've read about him, the only genuine passion that's consistent throughout his life is surveillance capitalism. The way I see it is that he's probably playing for history now, you know? He wants to be remembered as the man who solved society by treating humanity as a system that was broken and needed to be optimized. So maybe the question isn't what is Larry Ellison building, but it's what kind of world his machine is going to create for him.
Elon is the village idiot out of the group. Like, they all make fun of him. In their own group, too.
I'm going to try to put out part 2 later today, where we're going to walk through the Chinese...
Oh, we're going to watch part 2. Because, it's worse.
...to talk about in this series, because it's one of the protests were peaceful. The atmosphere filled the streets, demanding reform, freedom, student that shook the world. For weeks leading up to June 3rd, students and workers had filled the streets, demanding reform, freedom of speech, and for an end to corruption. The protests were peaceful. The atmosphere was electric, filled with hope. But then, on the night of June 3rd, the government rolled in their tanks, and by dawn, soldiers had opened fire on unarmed crowds. Hundreds, probably thousands, were... The true number has never actually been confirmed, and inside China, most people grow up never hearing about it. That's how tightly this has been erased from history. After this, the government faced a bit of a legitimacy crisis. People didn't trust them, so they turned to 2 different tools. First, they launched the Patriotic Education Campaign, and this was where they flooded schools and media with China's 5,000-year-old heritage in celebration. Confucius, the Great Wall, and especially the oracle bones from the earliest of Chinese writing. Second was a little less overt. They quietly began investing in surveillance infrastructure, computers, networks, and databases to help police tighten control. And here's where I stumbled into something a bit strange, because that very same year, 1989, was when Oracle, the American database company that we talked about in part 1, with Larry Ellison as the CEO, made their first moves into China through a Taiwan-based agent. Instead of going with a simple and direct translation of its name, that agent had registered a trademark under the name Jacqueline, which literally means the collection of Oracle bone inscriptions. Pause on that for a second, okay? Because so in 1989 to 1990, the Chinese state was reviving Oracle bones as a part of its lexicon and bringing it back into schools and media as a way to rebuild legitimacy. But that filing for Oracle, it didn't happen until 1991, the one that had formally made China its subsidiary under the exact name of Oracle Bones. Even though it's 1989 that there's proof of Oracle going over to China to begin some of these dealings. So it felt more like an alignment, like a strategy of branding than a coincidence. Fast forward a decade into April 25th, 2001, and Beijing's State Council had approved something called the Golden Shield Project. And by July 11th, 2001, directives were issued for it to continue to build out. Now, the Golden Shield wasn't just a single tool. It was the skeleton of a nationwide surveillance system build-out. Police databases and household registrations and digitized internet activity, centralized, like all of it in one single database. It was actually the early backbone of what eventually became the Great Firewall of China. Hold on to that thought, okay? Because 2 months later, on September 11th, 2001, the US is hit with terrorist attacks, right? And in the aftermath, while the country's grieving, Larry Ellison decides to step forward. This is when he offers Oracle software for free to build out this national ID system, one giant database where everybody's personal details could be compiled and instantly available.
Oh, you know, the thing that Palantir is currently doing.
For all of law enforcement. Different countries, different crises, same year, both turning to the same centralized database type of system for a solution to instability. Now fast forward into the 2010s and the pattern started.
Oracle is the one company I feared more than Palantir for 20 plus years. That's because Palantir is Oracle's bitch. They're just another subsidiary.
To sharpen, because in 2011 Oracle had bought Endeca, which was this platform that could pull in all of this messy data and organize it. It would take all these tweets, police records.
Endeca has been used in the United States for over a decade, by the way.
Call logs, and it would display them on this dashboard in this organized fashion. By 2012, during the NATO summit protests in Chicago, police had been using Endeca to monitor demonstrators. Protesters' tweets flowed into the same screen as 911 calls and arrest data, and they were able to predict who is going to commit crime based off of those things, and then additionally, like the weather and stuff, which is wild.
We do know that the weather does influence crime. When it's hot outside, people are much more likely to do violent crime, for example.
It was marketed as situational awareness, but basically what it meant was that your social media record could now be treated like a part of your crime record. Not long after, we learned that Oracle had used Chicago as a case study in a pitch deck to sell surveillance to China. All of their decks had been bragging about how Chicago had used Endeca to predict crime within 3 days. Based off the weather, by 2018, provincial police departments in China, including in Liaoning, which was very disgusting the way it was used there, were listed as Oracle customers. Maybe you're starting to see a pattern here. Now we move into 2019 when Oracle had suddenly laid off 1,600 engineers in Beijing and Shenzhen.
This goes so much deeper than most people are willing to even look into. Everything that we're seeing in America now ties directly into this. This is a decades-long plan in the making, being enacted right now. Like, they've been working on exactly this for like most of the 21st century, even like going back into the 90s, clearly. Hell, going back to some of the 80s, apparently. I wrote a paper about this in 2007. That is what Oracle was going to do in the long run. I mean, like, it's not like they tried to hide it.
Workers had protested outside the buildings, holding up signs that were saying things like, high profits, why layoffs? Because it didn't make sense at the time. Oracle was making billions. It was doing great, it was scaling, and it kept getting more contracts. In hindsight, though, it looks like they were scaling back right before the world's biggest health crisis to date. That's right, folks, we've made it into the COVID-19 part of the story. Probably.
It's almost like if you have the ability to do predictive policing and tell what people are going to do before they do it, you'll also be able to have prior notice to large-scale cataclysmic world events and can prepare accordingly so that you're not caught off guard.
One of the biggest linchpins of Oracle and China's relationship. By January of 2020, COVID had spread from Wuhan to the US, and almost immediately, China had rolled out all of its health code apps. That's where citizens were assigned these QR codes on their phones that controlled where they could go. So if they had a green light, that meant that they could move freely. If they had a yellow light, that meant they had certain restrictions.
Salamander sapien. I mean, if you had goals that you knew could never be accomplished democratically, you would have a decades-long subversion plan too. True. It's almost like Peter Thiel actually said that specifically. Shocking concept. I know. No. I mean, like, if I had a plan that I wanted to accomplish that I knew could not be done democratically, and I was one of these demons, then yeah, I would also have a decades-long subversion plan. Hell, I do have a decades-long subversion plan. I'm trying to get you all on board. That's why I want you all to leave the fucking country. So we can do this, but reverse.
And red meant lockdown, and it was all based off of their health data that they would have to submit daily. And here's why this matters, because surveillance systems need a lot of information in order to work perfectly, right? They need data, and they need to know more than just like what you like to shop for online and where you're traveling for the holidays, right? They need to know who you are. And the most powerful way to do that is through biological data, because it's the most permanent. The value that biological data has to surveillance systems cannot be understated. It fuels control on a level that is so intimate and permanent and nearly
cannot be overstated. Sorry.
Impossible to erase once it's collected and stored. And I'll bet you never guess what happens next. That's right, Larry Ellison makes his move at the same time. In March of 2020, he calls President Trump and offered Oracle's database to run America's pandemic response. So within weeks, Oracle had built this national COVID registry tracking vaccines and treatments. Just like that. The software's ready. And one thing leads to another, and by 2022, Oracle buys Cerner, the healthcare data company, for $28 billion, giving them access now to the electronic health records of millions of Americans. It almost feels like that COVID-19 was like the case study that Oracle needed in order to prove that he could handle healthcare data at scale. And once that system was in place, it stopped feeling temporary.
Anyone notice the pattern of catastrophe into using this as an advantage to make profit? Because it's just the shock doctrine over and over and over and over again.
See the pattern that keeps happening? It's like crisis, a crazy solution, but then it becomes normalized really quickly. Yeah, that's going to be a thing throughout this whole series, so just get comfortable.
I literally did not know that was the next thing she was going to say.
With that. And finally, we get to TikTok. In August of 2020, while Washington was threatening a ban unless ByteDance had sold the app, Beijing updated its export laws, and by December 1st, TikTok's algorithm was officially restricted. And then on June 17th, 2022, BuzzFeed had leaked audio from some TikTok staff member admitting that everything is still seen in China. That means that engineers in Beijing still had access to US data, is what that implied. And Washington predictably freaked the fuck out. And then there's, guess who? Larry Ellison and Oracle ready to save the day with Project Texas the same day. The same day. Yeah, it was that same day that the leak happened that TikTok had rolled out this idea about Project Texas, handing over to Oracle all of its data controls for the US and oversight of the code and some minor
This is why the mainstream media exists, by the way. It's so you don't hear about this stuff until years after the fact. No, they'd never do such a thing. Oracle is responsible for JavaScript, just an aside. Definitely not a company that would like to know what kind of weird little fucked up dick you have. I mean, true. They probably do, too.
I'm sorry, plans like that do not come together overnight, okay?
Larry Ellison is a wall of dick pics. Just like a massive one.
That's why this timing makes it feel like it was just something that was waiting in the wings, waiting to be triggered. It's called reverse engineering a problem so that you can solve it. That's what tech bros love to do, but especially Larry Ellison. And on January 18th, 2025, TikTok suddenly goes dark in the US for 12 hours and then reappears on January 19th, the exact day that the divestor ban deadline was supposed to happen, and thanking the President of the United States for supporting TikTok and China or whatever. And by the summer of 2025, TikTok just kept layering on the changes, right? In July, they had hired Erica Mindell, who was a former Israeli army instructor and later a U.S. State Department conductor.
Look, the point being, none of this is surprising. None of this is new. All of this has been ongoing for a incredibly long time. It doesn't change things. Like they're going to continue down the same route that they've been going on this whole time. There's very little that's particularly different, you know? And it's not like they didn't say they were going to do that. They did. They said they would do exactly this. In fact, here's an example. Here's 6 minutes of them saying it.
Kamala Harris does not have the compassion, the intelligence, or the strength the presidency needs. I know what it needs. You meet some people. Among the worst that you're going to meet, though, are in our country. I call it the enemy from within.
We have the enemy outside, which would be the very standard countries. And we have the enemy from within. We have some very sick people from within.
You know, I always say there's an enemy from within.
We have a bigger problem, in my opinion, with the enemy from within. And it drives them crazy when I use that term. But we have an enemy from within. We have people that are really bad people that I really think want to make this country unsuccessful. You know what they are? They're a party of sound bites. Somebody asked me, can they be brought together? You know, I never thought, really, I wasn't thinking like they could, because they're very, very different. And it is the enemy from within, and they're very dangerous. They're Marxists and communists and fascists. but I protect you against outside enemies. But, I always say we have the outside enemy, so you can say China, you can say Russia, you can say Kim Jong-un, you can say, but that's not, it's going to be fun. If you have a smart president, no problem. It's the enemy from within, all the scum that we have to deal with that hate our country. That's a bigger enemy than China and Russia. That's the enemy. I guess that maybe is the enemy from within, as I talk about. We have an enemy from within. They hate to talk about it. I say the enemy from within, and I said...
Chat, oh my god, he's talking about me. Mom, I'm being targeted by the president. I know, it's so cool, isn't it? It really is. It's not like they didn't say that.
And it leads to bad that's not helpful, that is not productive, and it leads to bad consequences. Leaders cannot call their political opponents Nazis and fascists and enemies of the state because they disagree with their policy priorities. I mean, this is something we should have learned in grade school. This type of language spurs on depraved people, deranged people who take that as a cue. And that's not helpful. That is.
Well, free speech is dead, and that's why. Also, force multiplier. DHS Gov secured 1,000 partnership with state and local law enforcement. What comes after the ban on free speech and then Breitbart reporting force multiplier? That sounds very anti-free speech. That's because they objectively are. In fact, it's quite funny that they're using Charlie Kirk to be anti-free speech while claiming that it's because people disagreed with him. Meanwhile, they're literally doing the opposite of what he himself said. Hate speech does not exist legally in America. There's ugly speech, there's gross speech, and there's evil speech, and all of it is protected by the First Amendment. Keep America free. That was Charlie Kirk who said that, Yeah, sorry. I have the moderation turned off entirely. I have no power into stopping YouTube chat from censoring you guys. But, such is the case. Shouldn't really be all that particularly surprising, huh? Despite its shortcomings, part of free speech is dealing with being called a Nazi, unironically. Yeah, it is. It is indeed. Now, I do have some interesting news. I wouldn't necessarily call this good news, but it is bad news for the right. So, I mean, it's okay news. In that, remember that ICE raid on the large South Korean factory, the Hyundai factory? Well, those workers got brought back to South Korea. And now, they have alleged human rights abuses, citing burns from overheated handcuffs, forced interactions without checks, neglect of worsening illnesses, they were shackled, they were beaten. And I will say, the one thing that makes me happy about this is that this will be an issue that haunts this regime for years. For fucking years. Now, will anything come of this? Not for a while. But, yeah, no. It will. Jesus, what the fuck? They were beaten? Yeah, we beat everyone that ICE arrests. That's kind of the whole thing. That's why, ICE's job is 10% kidnapping, 10% beating, and then 80% human trafficking. That's why they are the official military of Greater St. James.
There is a critical detail that is being left out of every American news outlet that's reporting on this. And that's the fact that the part of the plant that got raided the other day is the part of the plant that makes batteries for electric vehicles, which isn't even operational yet, not till early 2026. And that might not seem like an important detail to many people, but it leaves the story open to so much interpretation of people thinking things like this, that this South Korean company just came to America, and instead of hiring American workers, that they just illegally brought people via shipping containers or something. And a lot of people don't know this because I never talk about it here, but at my last corporate job at Red Bull, one of my many responsibilities was expansions, which meant that anytime Red Bull wanted to expand, whether their headquarters or warehouse and operations, I was a part of the team that made that happen. And just like any corporate expansion, like let's say a new McDonald's pops up, when McDonald's comes into town, they don't just hire brand new people from that town and just go, well, I hope they know what they're doing and I hope it's up to McDonald's standards. No, they take their most tenured, seniored, and experienced people within McDonald's and they send them to that brand new location to not only set up the location, make sure all the machinery and everything they need is there, but then they hire and train all the brand new employees for months.
So that's what those South Koreans were doing. Those were some of Hyundai's more experienced long-term employees who were here to set up a factory and teach Americans how to do the job. So you need foreign labor for new production since the existing workforce in that location may initially lack the work experience. That actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah, their job is to come here and train the American workers and to set up the factory.
Exactly what they were doing. There were so many Korean people there at that plant, not because they were taking away American jobs, because again, there is literally no job to be done because they're not even in production yet. They're literally there setting up the factories and getting ready to start hiring people and training them. And this was confirmed in Korea, by the way. This is from Korean news outlets where they stated that 47 people were from LG and 250 people were for the suppliers for that plant, which means that they were literally all there setting up the logistics for this plant when they become...
They were getting ready to train Americans to maintain and uphold those productions. This would have benefited us. Yes, it would have. And guess what? Hyundai's not coming back now.
Operational next year. In addition, when a country like South Korea is like, hey, US, we want to invest $350 billion into your economy by forcing Korean companies to set up industries in the United States, and the United States is like, yeah, we'll accept your money. But then our government spends all year literally being a circus, cutting departments.
Circus, euphemistically. They were going to spend $350 billion in America. They're not going to do that now.
That are essential to realizing that $350 billion investment by allowing people from South Korea to be able to come and make sure that it's set up, which again is literally what happened, which is literally why there were people.
Literally, I heard they were there as untrained, unskilled labor. The South Koreans, a quote, third world shithole country, of course, sending their worst to take American jobs. It's obvious, fucking unironic. Unironically heard that take. I'm not surprised because I'm sure Fox News told them to say that.
People like engineers that were there who had to get,
or think it rather,
creative, doing things like using the visa waiver program, which allows them to legally be in the United States for up to 90 days to either do business or tourism, to again attend business meetings and be there for less than 2 weeks, but then they end up getting detained anyway. And Hyundai, I know I'm nobody to you, even though you're about to enter into a $5 billion joint venture with my family's company, SK. I think you should take those 15,000 plus jobs that you're about to create in Georgia and take it somewhere. I can't remember the name of the country, but I swear there's a country that is about to have an influx of people living there who are going to be looking for jobs.
Yeah, you know what? Go open a factory in Mexico. Much better. I agree. Fuck America. Fuck giving America money or business. But it's worse, because this is now a human rights investigation.
Investigation into the United States and possible human rights violations after more than 300 workers detained at the Hyundai LG battery factory raid.
Now again, just to be making this incredibly clear, human rights don't exist right now. This will not have a short-term impact. This will have a long-term impact. This will haunt the regime for years. And good.
Last week were held in squalid conditions, shackled for hours, denied representation, and had their due process infringed upon. This comes on the back of Hyundai now saying that that factory is delayed at least 2 months, if not indefinitely, while they work to try to find new workers that are willing to come to the United States. And
I'm pretty sure they gave up on that one.
Have the required skills to train the workforce here. An additional 22 proposed work sites by South Korean companies across the United States have been postponed. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump is on Truth Social yesterday, Sunday, begging additional companies and countries to come to the United States and teach U.S. workers skills such as shipbuilding, chip manufacturing, and a variety of other highly technical jobs Why? So that the U.S. can beat them at their own game, according to him.
Good luck with that. Yeah, I'm sure you're gonna have great success. Who the fuck would ever want to come to this fucking shithole of a country? I don't know. It's essentially a death sentence. For example, special report, a large swath of the US currently does not have basic ground-level immunity necessary to stop the spread of viruses that had once receded into the past. A 6-month NBC News investigation collaborated with scientists at the Stanford University and finds that since 2019, 77% of countries and counties and jurisdictions, I can't read today, in the United States have reported notable declines in childhood vaccination rates. The decline spans from less than 1 percentage point of the population to more than 40. Vaccine exemptions from school children are rising nationwide. As many as 53% of counties and jurisdictions saw exemption rates more than double from their first year of collecting data to the most recent. Among the states collecting data for measles, mumps, rubella vaccines, MMR vaccines, 68% of counties and jurisdictions now have immunization rates below 95%, the level of herd immunity doctors say is needed to protect against an outbreak. Remember, measles was eradicated in the United States. It was, until quite recently. And now, 95% below the immunization rate in 68% of counties and jurisdictions in the United States. Wait, does YouTube auto-remove the term US troops? God, I hate YouTube chat. They auto-remove anything that means you have an opinion on anything useful. My niece got measles in New York. She had the vaccine, but the herd immunity, yeah. So sorry. Like, this is why RFK Jr. is a murderer. Like, killing a lot of America is specifically his job. That's his job. His job is to kill you. He's okay, thank God, but yeah, Jesus. He really reached out to companies asking for economic innovation the same way you text your friend like, wanna come over? Yeah, after you abused and beat the last friend that came over too. And like, beyond just that, like, beyond the people aspect of it, beyond the fact that coming to the United States is functionally a death sentence, on a business standpoint of it, it's also an incredibly dumb idea. Breaking, as of 2 days ago, the SEC says it is prioritizing Trump's proposal to end quarterly earnings reports after his request. So we don't even get to know how the economy's doing anymore. Why would a business even want to come here? I've been calling him a child and infant murderer every day. Well, I mean, many such cases, that's kind of a lot of the right. Now, we're also going to see Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister of Australia, make a trip over to the US sometime this week, or next week, rather, and meet with Trump there. And this is how Donald Trump responded to an Australian journalist just the other day. Incredibly telling conversation, so to say.
Nobody has ever done on the border like I've done.
Mr. President, what will you tell President Zelensky if you meet with him in New York?
Well, he's going to have to get going and make a deal. He's going to have to make a deal. Zelensky's going to have to make a deal. And Europe has to stop buying oil from Russia. Okay? You know, they talk, but they have to stop buying oil from Russia.
Mr. President, there are some
regarded to be the wealthiest man who's ever occupied the White House. How much wealthier are you now than when you returned to the White House?
The question he asked is, you've been doing a lot of business deals in the White House. Do you think that that is strange? How much wealth have you accrued since you returned to the White House is what I heard. Again, it's hard to tell because he keeps talking next to a fucking helicopter with a jet engine every time he's outside.
Well, I don't know the deals I made for the most part, other than what my kids are doing. You know, they're running my business. But most of the deals that I've made were made before. And that's what I've done for a life. I built buildings. Like I'm building a building here. You know where I built? You know what? You see that area? Yeah. That is going to be the greatest ballroom anywhere in the world. And for 150, so it gives me pleasure to do it for the country. And I'm paying for it. I'm paying for it. The country
You're paying for it, not him.
is not, and that's an expensive ballroom. I think it'll cost $250 million, and it will be...
The first person that spoke was a Ukrainian accent, actually.
I think the finest book. So for 150 years, John, you know this? They've wanted a ballroom. And now they're going to finally have it. And it's going to knock your socks off.
But is it appropriate, President Trump, that a president in office should be engaged in so much business activity?
Well, I'm really not. My kids are running the business. I'm here.
Again, question. Is it appropriate, Mr. Trump, that a president should be involved in so much business activity?
You know what the activity, where are you from?
I'm from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Four Corners program.
Well, the Australians, you're hurting Australia, right? In my opinion, you are hurting Australia very much right now. And they want to get along with me. You know, your leader is coming over to see me very soon. I'm going to tell him about you. You set a very bad tone. Go ahead, John.
Yep, just asking, like, hey, is it, okay that the president is engaging in this much business activity? I'm going to snitch on you to your leader. You're setting a bad tone. You're hurting Australia. Yeah. Now, actually, I'm gonna put this one last, because this will tie in to that story that I just moved last. Just today, we had this just 4 hours ago, right before stream started. 5 police officers were shot in Pennsylvania. Do not Fed post. You're allowed to think one. Do not say it. You know. We know. We all know.
Breaking news, Pennsylvania, York County, looking at a scene where there was an officer involved shooting. We'll get to Gaza in a moment. We're going to have it up.
Are you kidding me? Motherfucker, Israel reported it at over 200,000. Jesus Christ.
Update on the war there. Stand by for that. But first, this news conference is going to be coming to us momentarily. See some of the local news reporters setting up. Officers arriving. Again, officer-involved shooting. Attorney General of the United States putting out on social media that the FBI and ATF are on scene supporting the locals following this shooting. A shooting, she says, of multiple police officers.
Didn't he admit to money laundering a few months ago? He said he was trying to get a bank to take money after he left in the office, and no one would because they hate him, not because they didn't want... No, not even just that. Like, just last week came out for the fact that when he went to the Middle East, that he made a business deal in which the Middle Eastern countries wanted access to high quality US chips. And so he told them that he would only let the exports of chips go to their country if they bought some of his crypto. So like blatant and open corruption. This is some Putin shit. Ballroom sniggers at the visual of Trump in a ballroom. I know I'm a child. I mean, yeah. Also, I can't imagine him dancing, so,
York County, Pennsylvania. Bondi going on to say, Pam Bondi, that violence against law enforcement is a scourge on our society. It's never acceptable. And she asks,
you do buy crypto. You just buy it with other currency. You buy it with fiat currency. It's an exchange, sure, but it's a different type of currency. You're not exchanging fiat currencies. So you're still technically buying it. Also, I'm pretty sure you have to pay a fee depending on where you're buying it from, so you are paying money for money.
For prayers involved. Again, an update soon to come. York County, Pennsylvania.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe.
So, we had a shooting that killed 5 cops. What did we find out about the shooter? Well, a white sedan rode into the gate at the FBI field office in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania earlier today in what officials are calling an act of terror against the FBI. Authorities have reportedly identified the driver of the car as Donald Henson, a veteran known to be suffering from mental illness living in Penn Hills, Pennsylvania. Veteran suffering from mental illness living in Pennsylvania, you say? The witnesses say struck the gate before getting out and throwing an American flag on top of the fence and yelling a bunch of unintelligible words. The FBI asks anyone with information about the whereabouts of Henson to call 911. This sure sounds like your average right-winger. Poor guy just wanted some bacon but got lost on his way to the store? Probably. Probably at least a little bit, but no, the American flag and the unintelligible yelling and the almost certain alcoholism really does indicate one way versus the other. There's been so many police ambushes and no one is talking about it for real. Happens here too. He had a bunch of weapons expecting a battle but only got one cop on his lunch break. Yeah. Is the 5 million of us green cards still up for grabs? Yeah. The $5 million US green cards are still up for grabs, even though there's far less people than they're expecting to buy them. No one's buying them because no one fucking wants to go to America. Who the hell wants to travel and immigrate to the country that is, like, tearing itself apart? By the way, you know, after showing you that right-winger who went and killed 5 cops today, want to see what else happened today? Because this happened today.
Vedika Behel is in the studio with me. Hi, Vedika.
Hi, Yinka.
So the United States Justice Department appears to have quietly removed a study about a far-right extremist violence that is going on in the US from its own website just days after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Tell us more.
That is correct, Yinka. The US Department of Justice deleted one of its own studies from its website, a study that concluded that far-right extremists had killed more Americans, in fact, than left-wing or radical Islamist extremists.
I'm so shocked that the FBI would do something like this.
Now, this was first reported by independent internet and technology journalists at 404 Media, but in fact, it was first flagged by a PhD student by the name of Daniel Malmer, who is studying...
No, it's the Department of Prosecuting Enemies. Is there evidence he did? I'm not trusting FBI agents. That's ridiculous. There's no more evidence for anything. That's it. Like, that's kind of also part of the plan, let us be three. If you don't believe them and you can't verify what's real, well, then you're more likely to just tune out altogether.
Online extremism. He had been monitoring the page, and in fact, he found that it had disappeared from the internet between the 12th and the 13th of September. So that's just days after Charlie Kirk was shot by a gunman on the 10th of September. And he noted that the last date of accessibility for that study on the DOJ website was the 12th of September. Now,
yeah, just no evidence? No, just accept that it was some leftist, a trans woman, or a black person somehow. It doesn't matter how.
according to Malmer and 404 Media, after it was deleted from the website, this is the immediate redirection from the DOJ website. This was the page. A notice appeared on it saying that it is currently reviewing its website and materials in accordance with recent executive orders and related guidance. Since then, however, it has in fact been updated again to a single sentence. Let's take a look. Here it is. The requested page could not be found. That is all there is now on that single page. Now, if we want to talk a little bit about that study in question, the Vanish study was titled What NIJ Research, so that's National Institute of Justice Research, tells us about domestic terrorism. It is only available now to view, Yinka, on this page, Wayback Machine, which is in fact an internet archive.
They'll be coming for the Wayback Machine soon. To be fair, it was always that I do appreciate exactly one thing about the Nazis in power. At least they are honest for once. Well, they're not. It's just, they're honest if you know how they speak. But to the average person, no, they're not. The average person still doesn't believe that they're Nazis because they think that you can only be a Nazi if you are a German in fucking like the 40s.
Well, the timing of that removal is extremely interesting there, isn't it, Vedika? What's also noticeable is that the scrubbed report seems to directly contradict recent statements made by the Trump administration.
Yes, you could say that. The scrubbed report, published in January 2024, it spans 3 decades of research. And literally in its opening paragraph, its opening words are here. Since 1990, far-right extremists have committed far more ideologically motivated homicides than far-left or radical Islamist extremists. They've even...
I gotta say, Russia's more honest than them. Like, Russia lies as easily as they breathe, but they're more honest.
Included figures here, saying that includes 227 events that took more than 520 lives. In this same period, far-left extremists committed 42 ideologically motivated attacks.
I forgot to show you this. While we watch this, I need you all to open this link. I can't play it because it includes a song that will be copyright. The thing is, it's a song that a MAGA Nazi put out recently, and it's instructions on how to lynch a black person. Man's like openly just saying the N-word and shit in this song. The fact that they think that we're the extremists when they're putting out music about let's lynch black folk in the South is where we're at now. I have one better. I'll post it when I remove names. A friend is an economics major and told me that half of her class was shocked to find out we made this all up. And the other half of the class was like, are you a child?
That took 78 lives. As you said, this is a stark contrast to the recent comments we have been hearing from Trump and Trump's officials in the White House. Trump and his officials have in fact been pointing the finger at left-wing extremism linked to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. This week, Trump himself made several statements about the left. He said, quote, "The radical left causes tremendous violence and they seem to do it in a bigger way." So that directly...
Again, the people who just put out a song about lynching black folk saying that. By the way, off topic, purple looks good on you. She's aura farming with that shirt right now. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. They are close. I can't, I'm too fucking dyslexic to read that. I'm sorry.
Contradicts the findings of that study. We saw
something about cucks
there. Now, just days ago, he doubled down on that stance one more time. Now, let's take a listen exactly to what he said.
Well, the problem is on the left. If you look at the problem is on the left. It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right. The problem we have is on the left. And when you look at the agitators, you look at the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left, that's not the right.
So doubling down on his stance against what he calls the radical left. Again, this week, the White House has said it would crack down on what it has called a vast domestic terror movement. Vice President J.D. Vance has particularly spoken out against what he alleges to be a left.
Is there a link for that study? The study from the FBI? Yeah, you can literally, go on the Wayback Machine and find it, I guess, now. She did explain that back then. I can give you the name of the study. I'm sure if you just search that, you will find it. Oh, she showed it before. What NIJ research tells us about domestic terrorism via the Wayback Machine. So search that. You'll find it. Well, most American flag burnings are done by firefighters because when your flag is torn, you call the fire department to dispose of it. I did not know that. That's quite funny. What a fucking moron. Again, not a moron, a liar. He's not stupid. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's saying. None of these people are, doing this out of stupidity. It's just the plan. It's how the game works for them. For example, here's another not stupid person who's just lying overtly.
We're talking about having law enforcement go after the people who engage in and fund literal violence, and they're saying somehow that's beyond the pale, even though we know Joe Biden's FBI was investigating Charlie Kirk. Maybe they should have been investigating the networks that motivated, inspired, and maybe even funded Charlie Kirk's murder.
Oh, you mean like Nick Fuentes' show?
If they had, Charlie Kirk might be alive today. We're talking about having...
None of this is by accident. It's all, part of the plan. Hell, even this is part of the plan. Even this. Do not trust this Weasley little, gerbil for any, seconds out of your day. Not even 1.000 fucks given here. At all. At all! He is doing this on purpose. He knows what he's doing.
You hope that. You hope that Charlie Kirk's death won't be used by a group we now call bad actors to create a society that was the opposite of the one he worked to build. You hope that. You hope that a year from now, the turmoil we're seeing in the aftermath of his murder won't be leveraged to bring hate speech laws to this country. And trust me, if that does happen, there is never a more justified moment for civil disobedience than that, ever, and there never will be. Because if they can tell you what to say, they're telling you what to think. There is nothing they can't do to you.
Now, he is correct here, but he's saying this for a reason. These people have brain and personality disorders, live in ivory towers, and their ivory tower delusions. That is true. but they're not the ones making the decisions. The people who have the brain and personality disorders who live in their ivory towers, they're not making their decisions. This is an entire playbook planned out a decade or so ago that's just being enacted. Like, they're just following the plan. They're following the plan that they've published, and they're following the plan that they have followed in other countries as well. I used to think that the right were all just grifters. They are just mental. They are mental. They're zombies. Like, again, like, every accusation is a confession, not laws, and that, like, woke mind virus is just the zombie virus for the right. And honestly, quite a lot of the liberals are also vegan zombies, necessarily. But the people who planned what's happening, who are the ones who make decisions, they've been enacting this way longer than you, like, before Obama was even in power. Well, this was before 9/11. They were already working towards this. And this is the same playbook that goes all the way back to even like 1933 in the business plot. Same people. JP Morgan did some shit today. Where is it? JP Morgan. Here's JP Morgan. Came out about them today. JP Morgan was laundering $1 billion for Epstein. JP Morgan, the same company that tried to install a fascist dictator to replace what was his name? The name of my cat? FDR. Back in 1933. It was JP Morgan, it was Remington Steele, it was DuPont, it was another, like, arms company. Like, this is a long-standing plan. And it's not about, like, anything other than control. It's just the fact that these people don't want to have to pay you. They don't think of you as human. They don't think that you matter. It's about slavery. That's the whole point.
The American. I wish someone with a good heart would come along and manipulate the American people.
I'm trying,
Clearly,
mate.
This is a nation of cult followers, of media personalities, religious figures, actual cult leaders. So let's just get like a really good cult leader to set this thing back on course, you know? Everyone's just like...
Not laws, I gotta say, not even that, because, like, people have more respect for game NPCs. There are people who, like, would be happily a MAGA Nazi, but wouldn't want to commit crimes in a video game. These people want slaves so they can, what, sit on their chair and be rich and have some slaves feed them fruit? Basically, yeah. What's up, try plugging it in? Hello from tomorrow.
Like taking care of each other. Maybe there's a little weird stuff going on, but all in all, people are just like devoted to making this country a better place for everyone. So yeah, we just need someone with some massive charisma and evil psychology to come along and fool people into being good human beings.
I'm telling you, there is a higher chance of success by doing a psyop to the left and the right, by preempting the right-wing creation of a nationalist party and just having it started by leftists who will say that it's nationalist and right-wing and will just do exactly what the left wants to do the whole time. Like, clearly that works, right? It doesn't, like, what, the Republicans can be free speech and democracy, and then that. So why not? Honestly, better chance of success in my opinion. Raise his hand. I can do that easy. Please do help. Like, it's kind of one of our best shots here. But again, genuinely, if you are an American partisan, leave the United States. You will do more to help free the world from this outside of it. We would not have won World War II as the Allied powers without, like, German Jews that escaped Germany, escaped the camps before they were put in the camps, even some while they were being put in camps. We need American partisans because they are the most experienced with overt fascism and Nazism in the West. They're like the only people that can be listened to, the only people that have an understanding enough that they would be useful in organizing a decentralized international insurgency, a rhetorical and political one. And that is the only thing that we have proven that they are weak against. That is the thing that they lose to every time. That's what we need. Because you know what we're up against? This is what we're up against. This is the other side. This is where all the bots come from. Every troll chatter, half of the right wing that you ever have engaged with in the last 5 years is just this. Job looks kind of sick. It looks like hell, honestly. Speaking as somebody who does have several screens that has to look at this kind of shit. I mean, to be fair, it's not like they're doing it themselves. It's all AI doing it, so I guess. But yeah, no, that's the bots. That's the MAGA and Votniks that we argue with. Breaking. Liberals are now reporting that some companies are hiring people for celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. We need to expose these companies. That's right, I was just hired by ExxonMobil for this. Please, I beg of you to not go after my beloved employer en masse. It's actually Palantir. Palantir hired me after I made fun of Charlie Kirk. And Oracle. And XAI. Oh, and I think even the Trump administration. I got a job at the White House for that. Maybe you should protest that en masse. I just became a shareholder of Welsh's Coop after making Charlie Kirk's memes. Based. By the way, I need you to understand that we're just Israel. I mean, I said that again earlier today, but again.
So I was talking to I said Secretary of Defense, but our new Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. And I was talking to Secretary Hegseth, and you know what he said? He said, you know what, Mr. Vice President? We don't see any of these drug boats coming into our country. They've completely stopped. And I said, I know why. I would stop too. Hell, I wouldn't go fishing right now in that area of the world. But that is what a military that is dedicated to its purpose and a commander-in-chief that is dedicated to the national good can do. If we just have our actual government fighting for the interests of Americans and nobody else, we can make this country safer, we can protect your jobs, we can make sure you've got the best wages anywhere in the world, and we can...
Yes, he said fishing, and he's referencing the fact that they murdered more fishermen. This is just Israel shit. We bombed the third ship of Venezuelan fishermen again today. A third one. He's straight up Hitler. I mean, that too, but like much the same thing. It's not like Israel's much different than Hitler. We established this earlier in this stream. They are identical to Nazis. Identical. So, you know, same thing.
Stop this terrible poison from coming into our country. We just needed a president who was willing...
Oh, go fuck a couch. Israel works too. He's straight up an Israeli politician. Yeah, basically. Hitler had Riz, Vince's dick is too. To be fair, you're not wrong about that. The man could speak. He got a lot of Germany riled up. Like, he had some Riz, whereas he doesn't. Now, I want to shift subjects just a little bit into an entirely different circumstance. Have a good night, state your thesis. You ever watch like fake politician figures from like video games and then watch your own actual politicians and you're like, wait, I can't tell? I couldn't tell the difference between like this regime and what's that fucking like... It's like Civ, but it's not. It's more like politics for Civ. It's War and Conquest. It's been that this whole time. Now, speaking of War and Conquest, I want to move over to Europe for a second. Now, we discussed last week the extent of which like the Russians are fucking around in Europe, and we're not going to really go too much into that today. Even though they are continuing to. They're continuing to cross the border. Latvia just detained some Russian spies. Poland has just put out the fact they have more than 50 sabotage attempts per day. Romania just published findings from their 2024 election showing mass Russian like influence operations. Fucking Estonia is digging a trench, like a 40-kilometer trench on its border with Russia. So like there's a lot there. But I want to talk about a method that has been employed already successfully in 2015 that Europe is ignoring and needs to stop ignoring. Also, yes, liking this stream does support independent media. You can drop a like, go join the Discord. Speaking of, you should absolutely join the Discord because I'm going to be streaming a bit less for the rest of the month. This is fucking crucial, and locking stuff down is important here. But beyond that, join the Discord. That's where I hang out. I hang out in voice, can ask me questions. Chat is fantastic. And if you did want to donate to me directly without YouTube stealing some of the money, you could do so with that link. But no, I'm not talking about Crimea. I'm talking about Turkey. Because Turkey did shoot down a Russian plane. And Russia did fucking nothing about it, and they still won't fuck with Turkey.
The Kremlin's words were strong, but its action... Okay, well, let's check in and see how that is going. Right. The Turk Stream is operational, and Russia is assisting Turkey in the construction of a nuclear power plant. As has become a tradition, the Kremlin's words were strong, but its actions did not match. A template? The immediate reactions were as you might imagine. The Russian and Turkish foreign ministers had a phone call to convey their disappointment with each other. Turkey raised the issue at NATO. The North Atlantic Council met that day. Again, this is the point of having every ally station ambassador-level representatives in Brussels. The discussion was basically a continuation of the Article 4 concerns from a few years prior that had already been reactivated 5 months earlier. Russia, meanwhile, offered a familiar response. Performative politics was the order of the day, which included bringing the flight recorder into Putin's office. There was a meeting with his defense minister on the subject. Also, as an aside, remember how conspiracy theorists at the beginning of the invasion were saying that Putin was about to die because he could not stop involuntarily shaking unless he was gripping something tightly? Well, this is a photo from that meeting with his defense minister. And here he was, grabbing a table in 2015.
By the way, this is why we do the whole "is Trump gonna die" thing. It's a feature of authoritarian regimes. They do this in Turkey with Erdogan. They do this in Russia with Putin. They do this in Ukraine with Putin. They do this in Belarus. They do this everywhere where there is an authoritarian. It's always, let's speculate about the supreme leader's health. North Korea, China as well. Yep. And a lot of those rumors are actually started by the regime themselves as a either distraction or really just a test to see how much of like the bullshit that people believe. You grip shit because it's a quirk. They're expecting like they're acting like it's some body language expert shit. I mean, like, he isn't exactly healthy, though a lot of that's up here. So
10 years later, he is still not dead. Anyway, the Kremlin also held this Security Council meeting.
I'm about to get banned from YouTube for saying, unfortunately, Putin's not dead. I swear to God.
2 days after the shootdown to formulate Russia's next policy. But for someone with a 2025 perspective, it seems like it was the same old canned response. In Putin's own words, Turkey would face serious consequences, and that Russia would never tolerate such crimes like the one committed. With those words came some minor military reshuffling. Russia sent some extra surface-to-air missile systems to Hmeimim and dispatched the Moskva to Syria's coast. None of that impacted Turkey. There were no plans to invade Syria or forcibly remove Russia from the territory, which would actually put those assets to the test. Nevertheless, perhaps the Kremlin would have been better off keeping the Moskva permanently near Syria. You may recall that Ukraine sunk it back in 2022. Meanwhile...
That's because resistant lib content is made to distract you, Salamander Sapien.
The remaining threat the Kremlin issued was to send Turkey into economic ruin via a standard sanctions package and the termination of the Turk Stream pipeline. Okay, well, let's check in and see how that is going.
Yeah, how'd it go?
Right. The Turk Stream is operational, and Russia is assisting Turkey in the construction of a nuclear power plant. As has become a tradition, the Kremlin's words were strong, but its actions did not match.
Turkey cucked them.
A A template? Given what I just described, it ought to come as no surprise that some want to use Turkey's strategy as a template for NATO's eastern flank today.
Shoot down any Russian that crosses into NATO or Ukrainian airspace.
After all, Ankara had a zero-tolerance policy. Russian bombers violated Turkish airspace for only a moment and paid the price. The Kremlin...
It was literally a moment, too. Like, it wasn't like they were flying around. I'm not even sure they did that intentionally.
Squeezed their tables, cried foul, and began threatening all sorts of punishments. And yet, nothing serious ultimately came into effect.
I have a question. How and why is Turkey so militarily strong? Do Turks just enjoy fighting like Americans? Well, it's complicated in that there is conscription in Turkey. Like, boys specifically have to join in the military once they become like 18, or if you're going to go to college, you can defer that until after you go to college. But that conscription comes from a large amount of like terror attacks in Turkey that also happened because of Turkish action. Like it's for the longest time it's been between like Kurdish fighters, YPG, people like that, and that's literally because Turkey keeps fucking bombing them. Going back even further, Turkey was closely working together with like the Saddam Hussein regime, who also was very like bad to the Kurdish population in his country. But Turkey being like militarily strong has just been the case for the entirety of like NATO. They're the second largest military in NATO, and they're actually even stronger than most people think because they are almost like, I think they might be the #1 exporter of military drones in the world, actually. Not counting like, China, because a lot of their military drones are also just hobbyist drones that just get like modified. So it's not specifically engineered military drones like the Bayraktar, for example. Breaking news, Kash Patel grilled. Is he done? This content is the stuff that I'm talking about. Oh yeah, like I just scroll right the fuck past that. Media hygiene going to be key getting through this stuff. Genuinely, my best advice to you is to stop letting the algorithm decide what you're watching. Find creators you like, write down their names into a list, and then check those creators' pages manually for new content. Not like allowing the algorithm to define where you're going to give your attention to. Did I miss much? I was AFK for a while. Not much. We talked about like the American fascism some more, and now we're talking about how Europe needs to act like Turkey and shoot down any Russian like that crosses into their airspace or Ukraine's airspace, because it works. Turkey did this in 2015, and what did they get for it? Russia built them a nuclear power plant. They cucked them.
Perhaps more importantly, Russia made sure to stay out of Turkish airspace afterward. In contrast, Poland and Romania's responses have been soft so far. The reports vary as to exactly how many, but Poland only shot down a handful of the couple of dozen or so drones that ventured into its airspace. Worse, Romania watched as a drone breached its borders and then sat around and waited until the drone turned around and ventured back into Ukraine, presumably to continue the attack there.
Which is really fucking embarrassing, by the way. I get all my news from secret Facebook groups dedicated to AI slop. It's the most trusted and real information. True, absolutely. Absolutely. I have a particular list of actual creators that actually are helpful. Turns out that they're like all women too. Women have genuinely a better sense of dealing with oppression emotionally. Probably comes from long-standing emotional oppression. I always manually check because I have people I sub to that are blacklisted by YouTube recommendations. Exactly my point. Based. All of you need to start implementing that because I'll tell you something. The algorithm exists to control us. So the stuff that you see recommended to you is stuff the regime is okay with you seeing. There's a reason why I get asked often, hey, why didn't I get a notification when you went live?
Understandably, the criticism is that such soft actions will only encourage Russia to continue the drone incursions. The eastern flank ought to instead put its foot down and duplicate Turkey's zero-tolerance policy. That is the only way to get Russia to stop. And really, what is the escalation risk here of merely ensuring the sanctity of your own airspace? Even broaching the
YouTube and Twitch have never notified me of your live streams ever. I love that. Yep. Yep. Hell, Discord doesn't do it sometimes, and I post there manually every time. I always ask Grok what the left is up to in order to get real-time and accurate accounts of events happening, bleeding edge stuff. Yep. I swear, like, I know you're joking, but, like, it actually hurts. I just know the schedule. I mean, that's also probably helpful. You're kind of here every day, Salamander Sapien. I respect it. I only get my news from Fox News. They wouldn't lie to me, right? Yeah, no, never. They would never, ever lie to you.
Possibility of escalation would first require Russia to acknowledge that these actually are Russian drones. And it is not like Russia could support getting into a serious kinetic battle with Poland anyway. Not when Russia is struggling so hard in Ukraine.
No, that's not true. I mean, like, they're struggling in Ukraine, but they can't afford it. It's actually Poland that can't afford it, but it is what it is. I get notifications for your streams, though. That's good. Like, it's not across the board, obviously, but, you know, it also definitely impacts based on, like, your behavior as well. By the way, can we mention that this Bozo's voice sounds like an AI voice, but I think it's just really him talking? Yeah, no, I was thinking that too, actually, while we were watching that pretty much the whole time. I get notifications, but not always? Well, yeah, there you go. Like, it's genuinely just hit or miss. Now, I need to touch on this before we wrap up for the day. Europe is not ready for Russia's drone swarm. Like, it's really not. Again, 19 drones entered Poland. 4 of them got shot down. Russia sends like hundreds of drones to Ukraine per day, and Ukraine shoots hundreds of them down. Not all of them, but the vast majority. I talk regularly to someone, base lady, who tells me when your show is on. I mean, that's based as well. I mean, to be fair, you could learn the schedule. It's 8 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time, at least until daylight savings time, for now. We'll see. But honestly, like, knowing the schedule is going to be harder because I'm not going to be streaming every day for a little while. Like, yes, I'm banned from Twitch and all that, but like, none of that matters. The reason I'm not going to be streaming every day for a little while is because this right now, what we're doing, is important and it's useful, but it's not effective. And so finding something else that's effective, which I have some ideas. I'm not going to share them publicly on here, but there's other things you can do. And it's time to be doing those. Also, the fact that, like, I can't afford to keep doing this at this rate. I'm out of funds, y'all. I'm out of funds. And ain't no one gonna see me because bans. Hell, right now is probably the best we got it. Because, in like 2 weeks, once they have that, oversight committee hearing with all of the social media company CEOs on, you know, why they allow leftist terror organizations to air and broadcast on their platforms, it's gonna be a lot more difficult. Now, like, does that mean it's impossible? No. Like, what, they ban me? I'm just gonna make another account and then pop up and I'll make the content again. However, you can't make money like that. This join the accelerationists, we just sit on our ass and rabble. Ah, yes, the liberals. I'm not gonna lie, I'm at the point whenever I see Bibi or Putin, I need a second to distinguish who I'm actually looking at. Honestly, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I've been wondering, how do you money with no Twitch? You don't. You don't money with Twitch these days. This note contains all the love in the world. It's from humanity for you, Vizora. Oh, that's sweet. I mean, you could just hide on Kick or Rumble. No one's ever going to check there, except Peter Thiel owns both of those. Salamander Sapien. And, that's the issue, right? No one's going to check those. No one's going to see. The point of me making this content is to put out information that is factual. To, I mean, A, try and educate. B, try and propagandize, you know, like, convince, to message to people. But, like, if no one sees that, what's what's the function in it? Now, like, not to say I'm going to stop doing this. I'm not stopping doing this. I'm not going fucking anywhere. They could not make me shut up. They really could not. I will be on this base tomorrow. I will be back on here as well. But I am one person. I do live on the other side of the planet. There is a lot of comrades that I have. They're just all over there. And so I need some more time to actually work on a project that I think will be effective. You know what really screws you over is the fact that you're a woman and you're also very well articulated. That turns off like a lot of people, even some on the left. You're not wrong. And by the left, that's like the left-ish people, the liberals, the right-wingers. You could go on Rumble and insanely ironic right-wing content that's so ironic it would only be interpretable to left-wingers. And look, I'm not gonna say I haven't had the thought, Salamander Sapien, like put out a why I left the left video, but it's me just bashing the Nazis, but with right-wing rhetoric. Like, it would work, too. That's the worst part. Like, if I could stand talking to these people, I would already have done it. I'm not even kidding. If I could, even for like 5 minutes, spend any time listening to or talking with the right without wanting to preemptively be thrown in a camp by them, I would have done it already. Because it would be significantly more functional. It really sucks. It does really suck. Be careful if you do join the SS websites. They'll dox and harass you. They'll try and dox and harass me from this. We're on the SS website, Captain Buggy. The Kick and Rumble are no more like SS websites than YouTube or Twitch is now. They're owned by the same group of people. They're all friends. They have dinner parties regularly and hang out with each other. Now, like,
photo.
Here, let me show you this. It's actually from the same person we were watching talk about Larry Ellison before. This is a different video, but it is quite telling. It's a different subject too.
It's these organized special interest groups that impact Washington and have all the power. And if we could figure out a way to get tech on our side, they could absolutely check back on Trump. If they all together met in the parking lot and said...
They didn't in 2016, Scott. They won't.
I'll take it one step further than that. It's not even that they won't. It's because they can't. Because their whole project is the opposite of doing that. These tech billionaires...
Let us be three. Remember when it was popular to make fun of Hitler? Because that was not even, like, a few years ago.
Can't be on our side. They can't take our side because they've created this collapse of democracy that we're watching right now. You think Donald Trump created this? You think J.D. Vance created this? This is an infrastructure that's going on 10 years old that's been being built by these same tech billionaires. And I can hear the frustration in Scott and Kara's voice, right? I mean, I think we're all just really frustrated looking at this dynamic and feeling like everyone's kissing Trump's ring and why won't anybody push back? But I think that to have that mindset is to fundamentally misunderstand who is in control right now, who built all of this.
I'm not even kidding. I'm gonna get banned from YouTube for saying Hitler was a Nazi at some point.
Who is the ringleader here, and who's the circus? And for a little context, the jumping off point of this conversation being Trump's big tech dinner that he hosted at the White House the other night. How do I know that these tech billionaires are in control and they weren't just there groveling at Trump's swollen ankles, begging for some relief from the punitive tariffs that hit their companies? Because let's look at the guest list, shall we? Tim Cook, Apple, Mark.
By the way, to make this clear, these parties are a regular occurrence.
Zuckerberg, Meta, Bill Gates, Microsoft, Sundar Pichai, Google, Sergey Brin, Google, Sam Altman, OpenAI, Satya Nadella, Microsoft, Safra Katz, Oracle, Sanjay Mehrotra, Micron, David Limp, Blue Origin, Amazon, Shyam Sankar, Palantir, Alexander Wang, Scale AI, Meta, Jared Isaacman, Shift4 Payments, Greg Brockman, OpenAI. Now let me tell you about this other little dinner luncheon meeting that took place on December 14th, 2016 that Peter Thiel put together on the 25th floor of Trump Towers. Now this was right after
Peter Thiel, the Antichrist put together the meeting at Trump Tower. Again, like, all of these people are friends. They hang out fucking regularly. But, you know, just to show that even back in 2016, these same people were doing the same thing.
25th floor of Trump Towers. Now, this was right after Donald Trump had won his first election, and he wanted to kind of get a lay of the land to see how the next few years. What did that guest list look like? Tim Cook, Apple; Jeff Bezos, Amazon; Larry Page, Google; Eric Schmidt, Google; Satya Nadella, Microsoft; Brandon Smith, Microsoft; Sheryl Sandberg, Facebook; Safra Katz, Oracle; Chuck Robbins, Cisco; Elon Musk, Tesla; Alex Karp, Palantir. Now, do you notice any differences between those two lists? Because I hardly do. It's the same people, the same companies, 9 years straight. You know, when you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Look at what's happened since 2016. Life has gotten systemically worse for regular people while they've captured every level of power. Look at the S&P 500. Tech companies represent 40% of the entire market cap. Good luck boycotting cloud infrastructure that runs half the internet. You can't vote with your wallet when there are no real alternatives left.
Oh, it wasn't just a little talk at Incorrigible Heathen. There's actually 4 of those. They're each 5 hours long. They're ongoing until, I think, the second week of October. He's doing one a week.
They've positioned themselves beyond market forces, and it's only taken them about 10 years to do so. While all of this parallel infrastructure is being built, we're all just sitting here like, wait a second, is there no middle class anymore? There's no class outside of the wealthy and powerful? When did this happen? We're all on the sinking ship now, and the tech behemoths are not only in the lifeboats off the sinking ship, they're the ones who blew bazooka holes in the side of it. No iceberg.
No, he's literally the Antichrist. Like, Peter Thiel makes me believe in Christianity, all right? Like, I'm kidding, obviously. I don't believe in it, but, like, if there was ever a thing that could make me a Christian, it's fucking Peter Thiel. Hell, I'm defending Jesus these days. The atheist born to Muslim parents is the one defending Jesus these days.
In sight, just Mark Zuckerberg, who is looking for anybody to like him, so he, I guess, pulled the trigger on the bazooka. And by asking Silicon Valley, these tech companies...
He is actually biblically accurate as the Antichrist, Captain Buggy. Like, I mean, down to the letter. The Antichrist isn't cool, so, you know, like, that tracks. Look, all I know is, I do genuinely hope that the religious folks were right, because that would mean that Jesus is on our side. That is my cope for the day, is there is at least a 0.01% chance. I can't rule it out anymore, because they keep trying to make exactly that happen. And, like, obviously I don't believe in this stuff, but I'll tell you what I do believe in. I believe that perception shapes reality. In that, to an extent, like, there are, like, cosmic physics laws that, like, cannot be changed. You're not going to have any impact on that. But on a smaller scale, yeah, perception shapes reality. We know for a fact that 2 quantum particles that are, you know, existing can be in 2 places at once until they're measured, which then decides that they are in one place. So, if we're talking about a small enclave of humans on a rock in the middle of nowhere. Mind you, we are in the middle of nowhere. We exist in a void in space. In fact, that's why we thought the universe was 14 billion years old. If you existed in a more dense part of space, one that was not a void, it could be closer to 50 billion years old. But take that, for example, and think about the fact that not only are all of these people insane, and all of these people believe this death cult stuff, but they're also killing millions of people. Like, torturing, people are suffering all across the board. Everywhere. Some more than others. But they're doing this with the intention of bringing about this, like, end times prophecy, right? They're masturbating to it. Death is a transfer of energy. Now, again, I don't believe this. I'm saying if there is anything that could result in that being real, it would probably be this. I still don't think it's real. But large amount of people who believe in one thing, constantly thinking about it, lots of people dying, releasing energy, massive focus on it, both from opposition and from, you know, the supporters of it. I could see that creating, like, a situation where weird things happen. Not exactly, obviously, the fucking apocalypse from the Bible, not happening. That is a requirement of far bigger cosmological differences that just will never exist. But, like, weird shit happening on this planet through coincidental, like, you know, I don't know, things that just don't quite make sense with regular physics, but do make sense a little if you touch into the quantum side. I don't fucking know anymore, guys. That's where we're at now, where I literally cannot, with 100% certainty, say that. Because who knows? Who the fuck knows? We're in the dumbest timeline. It is the most insane, batshit crazy, like, bullshit happening every second of every day. At this point, fuck it, why not? I hope they're right with that one. I hope the death cult is correct, because if they are, that also means the Muslims are more correct, because Muslims exist because they believe that the Christians were correct, but then they started lying about, like, Christianity because they wanted money. That's literally why Muslims believe that, like, Muhammad the Prophet came, and why Muslims exist. So it's funny to me. I don't know. It would be cool. Muslims understand better than Christians do, mainly because they're more principled in devotion. And not even just that. It's because Muslims necessarily believe that Christianity was real. They just don't believe that Jesus was the Son of God. They believe that he was a prophet. And also, the other part of it is that Islam is more accurate to their original writings. The Bible has changed over time, over the centuries, over and over and over and over again. Whereas we're pretty positive that the Quran has not. In fact, here, like, I can't explain it better than this guy. He'll explain it much better. Now, am I feeling the light of Allah? Only if that comes with Mamdani. The split screen experiment is dependent on the time it takes for light to reach the object, which light literally moves in, but otherwise the point is correct. Like, it's more than what I said, obviously. I'm not a physicist, but I could see that possibility existing in a hypothetical 0.1%, you know? It's certainly a big part of how hegemonies function, that's true. What if we were in the smartest timeline and humanity is beyond cooked? That would be bad. I will 100% say for certain that it's the Antichrist, the real one. He came out of the crevice, smells like sulfur, does all the Antichrist things. He has the fucking, like, lizard skin. He has that weird fucking vein on his forehead. Who knows? Who knows? Alhamdulillah. Look, listen to this man explain to you why Muslims believe in their actual religion, whereas Christians don't. Not to say that I think either is right. I think both is wrong, but...
This, it would have been Arabic language at the time. They could see that this was...
Close, Latino Mifune. Muslims see Christianity as 2.0 and Islam as 3.0 because Christianity... So, Muslims exist because Christians started lying about Christianity for money. And Christianity exists because the Jews started lying about Judaism for whatever fucking reason. I don't actually know what that is. I think it's property at that point. But, like, that's what Muslims believe.
All to do with the Quran, for example. That's
what I'm going to get to. Okay, yes, yeah. So there were 4 folios, 4 sheets that were discovered. Okay. Yeah. Those 4 folios were measured with the Quran that we have today, and they concluded there was 100% word accuracy. They were 4 segments from 4 different chapters of the Quran. So it's not even like 4 consecutive bits. It's 4 different chapters. And they were able to
What
verify.
about all the rest of the chapters?
So
because you've only found 4 sheets.
Yeah, 4 sheets.
So what about the rest of the book?
So
we can't say that's objective, can we?
So now here's basing this thing in mind, that those 4 sheets, are those 4 sheets in agreement with what the Quran is today? The answer is, according to that particular study, yes.
Okay.
Now, according to another criteria, if you say no, I want more.
Yes.
Yeah. Then we have to look into the most complete manuscript that we have, which is Topkapi manuscript, which is in Turkey, and that's within 1 century of the Prophet, peace be upon him.
It's the full Quran.
This is the full Quran, yes.
And where does that date to?
That dates
the
to
Prophet
within
Muhammad?
within 1 century, which is his period. Yeah.
Okay.
Which in historical kind of classifications is brilliant, because the earliest of the Bible is 300 years after Jesus. That's the complete one, and it's very different to, or incredibly different to what we have today. So when you're looking at these two criteria and looking at the historical method, the Quran is preserved more specifically.
Didn't mean to click on that. But basically, yeah. It's like there's 4 sheets. Those 4 sheets are different chapters, and then referring them to like other like existing copies of the Quran, they match. Whereas like you could compare every single Bible like edition that's come out, and they don't match. So like there is a different distinction there. Now, either way, I still think both religions are wrong. So, and to be clear, all 3 of these believe in the death cult anyway. So necessarily, if Peter Thiel is the actual Antichrist, that means that the Muslims are correct, and also Jesus is on our side. White NB Islam Summer goes really hard. I am, inshallah, my brothers and sisters, inshallah, because that would be the funniest thing to ever happen in American history if like the left just all converted to Islam as a meme. And then actually stayed with it. Be incredible. 10 out of 10. Fully support. Aye. But, yeah, no, that is today, guys. I will be back tomorrow on this space. I think, actually, I'm supposed to have a guest on to have a chat. That'll be fun. We're going to talk a bit more about surveillance tomorrow, I think. I've been meaning to do that all week. Haven't really gotten around to it. I'm honestly kind of just fucking done with expecting change from America. I'm not done advocating for it, I'm not done covering it, but expecting? Yeah, no, not happening. So instead, I think a good pivot is security, privacy, anonymity, and strategy. Those are the 4 things that I want to focus on, and I think a lot of you should as well. By the way, if any of you wants to, like, come on and chat with me on this, you're welcome to. Hell, like, we'll find you a fucking voice modulator if we need to. America is a disappointment, many such cases. Praise Allah, goodbye, Sister Vizora, I'm off to prayer. Or, it's night, I don't think Muslims pray during night. You gotta wait until, like, 5 a.m. for the first, Jami to start yelling. That was my favorite thing about living in Turkey, by the way, is I never had to set an alarm clock, because I would just hear Allah. Wait, just that perfect wakes me up. Best Buncor. Alright guys, have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.